wish we stayed the same. I got way too many thoughts in my brain. I got memories that run through my veins. I'm not one to blame, but I could point out every way that you changed. Some things stay up while others go right down the drain. And lately we've been going down in flames. But if I'm honest, I get in my feels when I want you. Say you feel it too, I'll haunt you. Hold on till I'm lost in nirvana. But if I'm honest, I get in my feels when I want you. Say you feel it too, I'll haunt you. Hold on till I'm lost in nirvana. But if I'm my therapist is saying that I should. I don't believe her, but I really wish I could. Instead, I guess I'll stay misunderstood. Oh, 'cause I'm stuck now, just trying to figure a way out. I've tried but can't seem to slow down, and I don't know if I want to. But if I'm honest, I get in my feels when I want you. Say you feel it too, I'll haunt you. Hold on till I'm lost in nirvana. But if I'm honest, I get in my feels when I want you. Say you feel it too, I'll haunt you. Hold on till I'm lost in nirvana. But if I'm seem to slow down, and I don't know if I want to. 'Cause I'm stuck now, just trying to figure a way out. I've tried but can't seem to slow down, and I don't know if I want to. seek to find is a world that's mine. Need a place to hide. Will you free my mind?
Welcome in, all you NECC faithful. It's time to get boogie with it as we get into a wild Wednesday in the smack dab middle of the week at nearly the end of the season. I'm Ham Monkey Man in the booth alongside one of the greatest minds that's ever known four wheels and a rocking roar. It is a two-door Ford. It is time to light. Thank you so much for being with us. It is a good old switch up in the middle of the chaos, but with a lot of seasons that are almost super well defined at this point. Time to light. How are you doing? Thunderstorms are out there. Are you storming right now?
No, actually, a little bit. It was last night, but today it kind of calmed down around 2 or 3 p.m. It's nice to be back. Nice to be on this side of the booth in the NECC. I'm usually behind the scenes. By the way, Chippy, who's running production, why don't I get that cool transition, the cool little swirly thing? We don't have that.
Oh.
I was supposed to be on Counter-Strike today. That game ended up being a forfeit. When do we get that transition?
You got to go into I hear that it's a DLC for the good producers, so you might unlock it here soon. But actually, everyone
sense.
give a lot of love. Everyone give a lot of love over to TTL. Does fantastic work on wherever he's able to work. But we've got a double header tonight, and it's actually both in the central divisions, both Central A and Central B, but not the same division. We got Division 4 as our first one, rocking on up. It is going to be Blue Gold Esports Varsity from out of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, going against Illini Esports Black. And when you look at both these teams, you look at the three set on the squads that are coming out tonight. This is important for both because the Illini currently at 0-4 alongside Clutch Small Lotus and Radio Silence. They need to find their first win. But on the other end of things, with Blue Gold, Snoop, Yuddle, and Chewy Toast, they're at that 2-3 mark right now. If they were able to get a dub, might be able to at least assure themselves a chance of getting that 4 seed going into the spring playoff.
And speaking of the spring playoffs, it's not like they're multiple months away. It feels very different between the fall and spring semesters because fall semester playoffs start near the very end of the year. Spring semester, the playoffs start nearly the middle of the year because then you get into nationals playoffs. I believe the first week of playoffs come last week of March, maybe first week of April. They are not that far away by any means. These teams, if they're going to step up into playoffs, now is a very good time to do so.
It's a fantastic time to do so. This has got to be when you get locked in, because if you aren't, you're going to be locked out. Illini, there is a slim mathematical iota of a chance for this squad to make it into the playoff. They're going to have to win out for whatever is left on their schedule if they're able to obtain that. But they can also get the consolation prize that a lot of teams end up going for, and that's to be the spoiler against Blue Gold. This Blue Gold out of Eau Claire with Wisconsin needs to be able to find themselves in an even 500 situation before week number 7. It's a best of 7 to kick things off. It's a Division 4 match in them, and it's all of you hanging out here at NECC.
Blue Gold Varsity with the better chance, we'll say it, making the playoffs, but by no means are Illini discounting themselves from this part of the season. Early start for them. It maybe get some help from outside here in this Group A.
If they'd be able to do so in quick succession. But challenges like this is exactly why Illini Black have found themselves in kind of a deep hole. The previous fall semester, they went 2-5. They cannot rely upon that previous year's outcome and success. It's got to be this right here, right now. But bearing down upon them is the pressure out of Blue Gold.
It also becomes a little bit too much for Blue Gold, or for the Illini, because of Blue Gold. Shot after shot already in the first 30 seconds. You could see the boost levels were just way too low for Illini, leaving one player on that close post. And an unfortunate misjump, which happens sometimes. That's why there are 3 players. Unfortunately, the other 2 were just out of position.
Gonna be able to have a chance, then might actually find one as they clear this one all the way out. Don't stop all the momentum on the ball. And actually, they give themselves an opportunity to go and find that corner boost much the same way. So a one-touch offensive is not what you want to see from the Illini. Still, looking pretty decent as all of a single goal at this point in time. Lotus with the pickup. He gets bumped in transition, hoping for a succession of touches to maybe move that one from the inside on out. But unfortunately for the Illini, they haven't recorded a shot as of yet. Some good mechanics, and Lotus is trying to play a lot of small, acute dribbling plays to see if they can be able to get Blue Gold on their heels.
One thing you're also seeing from Blue Gold is they're not in a rush by any means for most of these touches. That save was a really good example of it. Not that one, the one like 25 seconds ago, where you take a small touch, you allow a different player to get control of the ball rather than just completely dispatching it midway down the field. That's another one. A strategic touch to the outside, get a second one on it, allow the rest of your team to collect themselves, and now you have a second or third player in rotation behind the ball, even on an Illini poor touch.
But another one's dropping on through. Snoop from just outside the mid lane of this entire map, end up making just a good pickup move. They catch small, a little bit too far outside the box, and Yellow was in support, but the damage was done just as soon as they had them on the run. He threw it in reverse, but he just couldn't be able to back up fast enough. So just short of 100 seconds here into game number 1. Blue Gold already showing what has been successful for them. Oh, watch out!
That right there is one of the times where a bad touch can really get to you. You've one player overcommits, another. You can see in the corner right now, Yuddle didn't have boost, couldn't get anything, and Radio Silence takes advantage of the forced poor touch up in the top corner. Blue Gold looked infallible for, like you said, about the first 100 seconds, but Illini, one bad touch can be the difference maker, and that's how they get on the board.
Radio Silence with that very loud first goal necessary for Illini to stay competitive into this game. Apparently that player is also huge into Roblox, so creativity, part of their weapon set to try and go up into this matchup. They're going to do so again. I'm going to get a flip reset. They catch it off their nose. A pre-jump from their teammate? You're seeing a lot of the gameplay from out of Illini. You were saying that they were not at all rushed. They felt like they were being a little bit more creative, a lot more of just playing possession, see if they can play more to the floor and get some of these dribbles. Feels like with an 0-4 season right now, they're trying to take a lot more leniency to experiment while they have time to do so.
I mean, you might as well at this stage. Good quick save to get it across, but that touch right there, you lose control. You force a game of, we'll say, kick and chase at this stage, and you're looking to improve. I think that's the main goal for Illini. Even if you don't make the playoffs at this stage, you've got a lot of players who are still not in their final year. You'd like to be able to improve going into a future season, and given the fact you have multiple teams at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, there's a very reasonable chance where they improve and possibly step up a team, or if they don't, maybe step down a team, which they'd like to avoid if at all possible.
That's the program. It screams that you have a lot of growth that can occur, especially across all these different levels, be it freshman all the way up to senior, and seeing what that program can be able to provide for them. And so far, it's a lot of good just general passing. The communication is on a high there for the Illini. Unfortunately, just as they try to maintain at the midfield line, one man gives his life. A collection by Yuddle that is slapped on down. Now, we've had 2 goals by Blue Gold Varsity. It's punishing whenever the Illini were all between the posts. But they've not exactly been allowed to just kind of dominate midfield. That's going to be a give up of possession. Chewy wants to get right back to a teammate, but they have at least made it to more orange grasses. And look how Radio Silence is stealing the back corner boost.
Lotus having to retreat without boost, actually steals it away at midfield, but a touch just goes wide, and this is where Blue Gold can return, but Lotus at the back of this play the entire time, looking for a flip reset, doesn't even get an extra touch on the ball running out. Follow-up also is not there, and Radio Silence now with, you can see it, 60 seconds remaining, misses that opportunity in a full clearance. Blue Gold Varsity, they don't need to play offense right now. Goal differential would be nice in this first game, but the goal right now, don't let one up.
Sometimes the best defense is a very persistent offense, but you don't want to overextend. A nice takeaway by Clutch Small, but Chewy Toast is going to lay it up to the backboard. No one there to defend, and that means this one's free. It's all of a decoy situation, a double commit. Now you've got Yuddle by themselves. They don't got a lot of boost. Neither does the retreating defensive of Blue Gold. One soft touch. Yuddle does at least find it. He's got about 20 in the tank or so. Lotus had been pre-jumping, but that was not communicated as his teammate does pick it up. This is going to drop to the box. A double commit. Oh, but that slams just outside.
2 separate double commits. One for Illini that almost cost them, and same case for Blue Gold Varsity. Arguably, the Illini overcommit nearly got them the goal itself. A demo, maybe to bring this one back. That could float in. Double touches there with 1 second on the clock. Radio Silence nearly gives us some free Rocket League. What does Blue Gold have to say about it as time runs out in regulation?
Snoop chasing after Radio Silence when they recognized that that ball was not going to come down quick enough. They tried to interject and intercept. 1 extra second, we hit grass, and we in fact find ourselves into some extra time. The Illini, they've only gotten 3 game wins out of 4 best of 7s through the previous month. Can they be able to find their 4th game here?
That will go just wide. Yuddle made sure it was redirected, but look at the boost numbers, left side of your screen. Yuddle, bar him, the only player with boost. Finally, they get some more, but still slowing things down for Blue Gold. They didn't really set themselves into an offense that allowed Illini to fully recollect themselves. And Blue Gold, at this stage, they looked in control the entire game. All 5 minutes, bar the last 3 seconds. They hadn't had a real blemish on their record.
Oh, there's a lot of free airspace. You gotta watch out. If you're gonna double commit like they just did, both swinging for the fences to try and get that clear, you must connect, and at least they did so. The key factor that's been difficult, you've been seeing a lot better boost management from out of the Illini, and since then they've also been having stellar passing plays. Free. This one will fall a bit wide, luckily, for the Illini, because that was an awesome touch. And Blue Gold, really, if that had been on target, probably would have been able to end this game with just about a minute of overtime play. But Blue Gold needs to calm the field down. As soon as they allowed the Illini to have the free reins on the rock, well, it's been easy for them to knock on the door. That's an open net! Lotus! My man! Taking it! 2 goals in a row. Illini take game 1.
What a couple of touches from Radio Silence as well. Controlling the midfield in the midst of a flip, gets a touch over top of the defender on rushing. And Illini Black, blink and you miss it. We're down 2-1 with 5 seconds remaining. They get a double touch off the floor to bring back regulation, and a minute and change into OT. They allow Lotus the wide open net. The only player who could have denied him was his own teammate, who happened to be sitting there post assist. What a sequence for Illini Black, and what a way, like you said, to get just their 4th game win on the season.
If you are Blue Gold, this needs to be a wake-up call, because obviously you look across and you see your opponent and you see that negative 13 game differential. You see an 0-4 in terms of their winning overall record, and you're like, guys, this is going to be us. You get 2 goals to kick things off. 3 goals in a row. Cut it in half, even it up late, and then about, a minute and 15, minute and a half in overtime, suddenly everything is wide open. You and I got to see a lot of great mechanics flash by the Illini. Blue Gold looked like that they were utilizing fantastic speed to open up much of this series. But when it all broke down, when they could not control much of that midfield line, everything went the Illini's way. It just was a slow crawl. And if I'm Blue Gold, I've got to be like, okay, all right, that's game 1. We can surrender that one. Let's not do 2 in a row.
The other thing is, do you think of it as a fluke? Do you say, oh, they haven't done much this season, we're going to be perfectly fine going into game 2? Do they underestimate their opponents a second consecutive time? I'd imagine no, but there are arguments to be made where sometimes you lose and it's a fluke. A lot of times those are standalone series, but here, Blue Gold can look at that game alone and say, well, our defense kind of fell apart on at least 2 separate occasions. Arguably, the first goal they scored was still 3 and change remaining on the game clock. Was also one where the defense just didn't stand up to snuff. And you can't afford those when you are fighting for a playoff spot, if not at a bare minimum playoff seeding.
This has got to be where they really rein it all in. Don't allow games like this to get away from you. You can see these kind of crazy antics that happen from individual pickups. I mean, I would say that a lot of this is individual flash of mechanics, which it obviously is for a majority of it, but the passing has been pretty immaculate. Oh, but a challenge like that. Chewy Toast. Sometimes all you got to do is just be able to slam on through, see if a 50-50 will work out.
Have a second touch and another double commit, though, from Illini Black. It has been the story of unfortunate double commits for both teams that have really cost them. If Blue Gold don't have one at the tail end of regulation, they probably save off that game-tying goal. Same case there for Illini, where just miscommunication is costing Illini. You can even make an argument that Illini's offense has struggled because of miscommunication. A couple times where there's been a very early pre-jump and it hasn't been communicated or was miscommunicated to a teammate, and you have a player out of position.
Just do so. They want to be able to act as quickly as they can react, but the same thing has to be said and conveyed to your teammate in real time, and that's very difficult to do, and that's honestly the next level when it comes up to collegiate and just proper organized Rocket League in general, or just esports overall. Being able to do the thing, but say the thing so everyone knows what that thing is going to be. A lot of demos have come through from Blue Gold. Been deleting these Illini players, especially when they sweep across this back line. That's going to be an open shot, and Snoop obviously will bury it top shelf. This one just left a little bit too open-handed for Blue Gold to take.
Watch where this is placed, though, for Snoop. It's put behind the last defender. Usually you're jumping across the goal and you already have some forward momentum. You're not really able to jump straight up with enough efficacy. You place that top bin short, but the close post top bins, that's a dangerous one to defend, as we just saw.
So we're in similar waters from what we had in game number 1. Feels almost like a copy-paste. To see what could end up happening again. Last time we were here, the Illini were finally able to at least get a game. And then they slow crawled their way into a successful position. And what has been happening a lot more recently is Blue Gold has made sure to get rid of the player. But look at that combination play. A nice pickup, handoff from Radio Silence. They've been involved in at least 3 of the 4 goals collected by Illini so far.
Another amazing pass, and it draws in yet another defender. Ball movement is the breaker down of good defense. And we saw that even in midair. Radio Silence is unpredictable. Gets a good flip reset and just takes an awkward touch. It's a good touch, but it's an awkward one. Double tap from Yuddle. I don't think he was aware that he was going to get a second one on it.
You think that's also been kind of a mystery right now in terms of just difference of play overall as they situate and sort out this pitch. Blue Gold knows how to make great use of zone spacing. They brought it to these outside corners. They play a lot more to the perimeter and then reacting when they got kind of a free sweep across that back line. Sure, it's all well and good. Illini have been playing acute man passing, bringing it right to the face of their teammates, seeing what can connect, and then those have been blistering pace when the shots have come through. So they're both playing just a little bit different idealistically in terms of offense output. But defensively, it feels like Illini have finally stepped up. That's an open shot. Fantastic cutoff as Jettle saves the day.
Lotus, another awkward jump. Actually didn't even waste all that much boost for it. I thought he was going to go for the demo. Does indeed. And Radio Silence, another good touch, and it's one that wasn't really expected for Blue Gold. Fortunately, Chunktos was in the right spot to deal with it. But this has become so unpredictable and so dangerous for Blue Gold to even commit to individuals on the off chance that it is that unpredictable touch. They're out of position. This is a 2-on-1 driving down the field.
Oh, that was an unfortunate one for Clutch Small. They were hoping to give it to their immediate teammate. Great find by Clutch, doing it again. Lotus is getting bad touch from behind, but that was by his own teammate. So you see Radio Sounds bailing out, not wanting to overcommit into that back corner zone, and Yuddle is just going a little bit too honest. I feel like that really has been indicative of what's been happening. Blue Gold goes for the more telegraphed, more fundamental, here's your 90-degree angle, whereas Illini is picking apart every single degree that's left over thereof. 60 seconds to go. I know you guys have seen this story before, but maybe you want to see it in a slightly different color with a number 2 next to it. Game 2 looking a lot like what Game 1 had left behind.
Radio Silence overcommitting to this one maybe is the red herring. Second player jumps after it for Blue Gold. It almost worked. A touch that goes awry ends up falling aside the goal. Yuddle's commitment without boost. Same case that we saw from Illini, but at least gets a bump across. Now it's really down to Radio Silence. Another set up for a teammate and a missed bump across. There go the Illini once more. Clutch Small there to pick up the pieces, waiting in the wings for a ball to fall at his feet. And Chuitos gets caught in the back corner of the goal. The interior of the goal is never a place you want to be, and you can see exactly why.
You could see, I think it was Snoop that was just barely off on the read on that next drop down touch. And again, it goes 2-2. It was last time it was only with 1 second remaining. There's still enough time for a rebuttal from out of Blue Gold. Can Wisconsin Eau Claire bring one to the table? You got Clutch Small trying to divide and conquer. They're going to steal that corner boost. You're going to have a forward press by the Illini, but it's a bouncing ball. Yellow trying to just get one all the way back, maybe sneak it in. The Illini suddenly under pressure. Snoop going for a diving tackle. He can't get there in time. And for the second game in a row, we're tied at 2, going to OT.
OT once more. Demo at least keeps things reasonable now, but Clutch Small goes inverted and gets the reverse forward flip to go through. Watch the boost number, or in this case, the lack thereof. Yuddle had 100, or as close to 100 as you can get while being the lone man in goal. And there was nothing left over for Clutch Small as he finished that one off. Illini Black, a return to form in 2 consecutive games. What is going on?
I mean, I'm starting to wonder how in the world this team only has 3 game wins from the entire previous month worth of NECC league play when they are playing so darn well right now. This team has been putting up at minimum 9 shots per game, and Blue Gold has been putting up double digits to try and match them. But the defense has had to be more structured late term, and the offense has been far more creative from the side of the Illini. It's like it's that minute and a half or minute 40 or so. Their TTL with the Illini just like, all right, defense, what? They like fall asleep, moving at their desk. But then for the next 3 minutes, like, no, we can do this. It's fine. I like, where does it come from?
It's also, I think, the Illini knowing that they have a chance. Now, I've been sitting here doing some pen and paper math or mouse and keyboard math, looking
Okay.
at the standings. There is an outside chance and a mathematical possibility. I'm going to say possibility, not probability. Want to
Okay.
emphasize that. There is a possibility that Illini are able to bring back this season exclusively because all the teams around them are also fairly middle of the pack. Blue Gold there, making it a little less likely. And the important part that they only had 3 wins or 3 game wins and 4 match losses doesn't help for tiebreakers. But there is a chance where the 4th place team finishes negative, and it could be Illini Black at 3 and 4.
Just, it's basically the NFC South every season. Just, I don't understand it. But you know what? Because it exists, it still can happen. Yuddle wants to make up for what went wrong before. Unfortunately, hold that thought. They end up with a follow-up. I was wondering if that was going to work because Yuddle on this 50-50 forces his ball to stay back. The next man did not have any momentum, and Clutch Small cannot dig it out.
It looked like Clutch Small was expecting a much quicker touch, just kind of jumping to hold off a quick putback. And as soon as the ball got further away from them, they were in the air with no boost and nothing they could do because they didn't have a flip either. Lotus puts one on, but there are 2 players in the front third. This becomes dangerous now for Illini Black. Missed bump at least saves the Illini. But 2-0 early. I think UEC has kind of taken this one personally and have started to realize this may be something we have to come back, but they also led 2-0 in the other 2 games, so I don't know what to think.
We got to change the narrative, says Blue Gold. We got to change the idea and the pace at which this game was played. And look at the demos that are being collected. This is the identity from Wisconsin Eau Claire. They need to make sure that this stays fast and it stays brutal into the Illini back line. When they start giving up ground, allowing the Illini to become much more comfortable, collect these kind of offensive pushes. Radio Signs looking for a 50-50 as he tosses it to the goal line. That is when it is the most dangerous for them.
Also feels as though the Illini can become predictable. A lot of their goals have come off of backboard touches. And now having to get back on defense. Good commitment there. Clutch Small realizes their teammates in the area and can just drop away. Look at the Illini spending so much boost to get back and only having select boost while they're there. Clutch Small now the only one really forcing the issue in transition. Chulitos is able to just use the ball and get right back around him.
That was a hope to fake out the next possession touch and then just go down and kill whoever's on the goal line. Didn't work out. Fantastic defensive positioning and read, and a little bit too overt and ambitious right now. Illinois feels like they're trying to do a little bit too much with not enough. But it's also because they know their trickeration has been the true key part of the arsenal. Fantastic shot. And they get a follow-up as they have a double commit from out of Blue Gold. Also a key difference in this game. Last time that it was 2-0, it was each game before that at around minute 20, minute 30 into the game. This time around, only 30 seconds.
At this point, the Illini Black also knowing that they've come back from previous games. They're not really in a rush to try and force the issue on every single touch because they know Blue Gold is fallible. If the first 2 games didn't give that one away, they've made a couple mistakes in this one that teammates have bailed them out of, sure. The Illini knowing that they have a reasonable chance at this also allows them to be more comfortable even while trailing. There, another double commit, but Yuddle basically just forces their car in midair in front of the ball and denies that one. Good, at least decent pass in the middle. Another double commit. This, again, is where the Illini can be kind of torn apart by Blue Gold.
Problem is now that clock is starting to be a factor, at least present. They have this series lead for the time being. They don't want to allow Blue Gold to come back. And obviously, if they're in that 3-16 mark in goal and game differential, going into a 4-0 position would be such a heroic thing to start trying to save what is left of this spring season. With a minute 30 to go, Blue Gold is going to try their hand at setting up a defense that can last. Now, turnabout is fair play. Illini trying to gather up something, but it feels super segmented right now. And look how far back Blue Gold is playing. They're elongating their rotation all the way up north and south of this pitch, and they're just not allowing free shots, even when that one threatens the top crossbar.
Those shots need to at least be on target, though. Force the save out. It was a mediocre touch out of the defensive third, but it was still good enough to keep it out of the net. If Illini is going to come back, if they're going to score the goals they need to in this series, those have to be at minimum on target, and best case scenario, away from the lone defender. Another missed bump for Blue Gold there. It would have scored him a goal if it landed, but now it's Chewy Toast having to play some awkward one-on-one shadow defense. Yuddle does the exact same thing but off the wall, and here come Blue Gold.
Blue Gold looking much more just put together. They feel like they don't have to be super threatened by any of these individual dribble offenses. That's going to be a put away. And usually when you would have someone following up from that initial touch from the goalie, this one is going to be Blue Gold playing very safe. They had to calm the field, keep the chaos at bay. Quarter of a minute approaching. Illinois, they've gotten at least a few, shoves back. But they haven't been able to get a single goal. If they can find one here and force a kickoff, sure, might be able to happen, but that's put to rest. Snoop puts clutch in the bag, and we've got ourselves a guarantee to game 5 as Blue Gold will finally strike back.
Blue Gold varsity really playing the stout defense they needed. I was talking about Illini needing those shots on goal. Sure, they'd like them. But even when they were on goal, even when Blue Gold was tested, the rotations looked a lot better this time around. This time also, for Illini, only 6 shots on goal, 9 the last game, and importantly, 12 on goal for Blue Gold with 5 saves. They were playing the active defense they needed when they were required to, but still room for improvement.
Well, we go to game number 3 now, and finally it feels like Blue Gold, they finished their job. It was like do it in the majority of your paper, and, for some of you that still write on paper, and not putting your name on it. You just hand it to the professor and like, yeah, and it's lost in stack, and you get no creds, and you're like, why? Well, this time around, they finally did. And great job overall. We got to see them take the game, take that clock, and just go, all right, here's like 4.5 minutes of you not scoring. Taking Illini and forcing them to have to play very individually. And none of the cool passing, none of the much more intricate play that was a freedom of the midfield from the first 2 games. Game number 3, much more methodical. Can they do it again? We've seen Blue Gold max out at 2 goals per game. Can they get more?
Have I ever told you you'd be amazing at charades?
Thank you. No, you haven't, but I appreciate that if that's true.
I think you'd be very good at charades.
All right, cool.
That was pretty good. Well, Radio Silence does cross midfield comfortably. The Blue Gold, the rotation back was good enough. Chewy Toast just takes the wild touch out. That's one of those clearance touches that you don't want to take all the time, but when you got 3 players all on minimal boost, and they're all really just hunting for boost, that's how you can take back midfield control. It is a game of chutes and ladders. You take 3 or 4 steps forward, sure, you're going to take 1 or 2 back, but at a bare minimum, you've taken a +2 or +3 stance compared to what you were struggling on your own goal line.
Well, while they're trying to play that board game, Illini is bringing up Candyland, and that means that there's at least this hidden path that you can be able to take from one end to the other. It's about drawing the right card. For the first minute of play, this has been a key difference as well from all of our other games. No one has scored. Everyone has otherwise struck gold, and it's usually Blue Gold within that first 60 seconds. A delay on that defensive touch, and look how collectively Illini have been right up on each other, forming some kind of a isosceles triangle, maybe equilateral. I'm not sure.
I was never good at geometry.
Not once.
It was the
that's trigonometry.
I don't know. See, that's my point. I wasn't good at that either. I liked algebra. I was okay in statistics. That's really where we draw the line. Radio Silence, maybe more in FM and AM radio waves. As Clutch Small takes a touch out in the open. Lotus just trying to keep things dangerous in the offensive side and get it out of the corner. Clutch Small, ball fall at their feet. They weren't able to do much with it. Now they're in an awkward spot. Surprised Blue Gold didn't just rush that one. And because of it, Illini now has control, and nobody really to force them into anything dangerous on the defensive side.
This is already brewing to becoming one of those games that either breaks out late term or is going to be only a 1-goal burner. Now, we've got the first. Blue Gold, it was by virtue of Radio Silence taking a little step outwards, trying to bait in another offensive touch to see if they can force a 50-50. In doing so, they brought it more to the wall. That was going to have a lot of power to ricochet mid, and they had an immediate answer to try and take that follow-up shot.
Also seemed like Illini was ready for Radio Silence to take that touch. I'm pretty sure Clutch Small was sitting in the corner waiting for that boost, or at least was making the round in that direction in patience for the boost, but it just didn't formulate in the time they needed. And now you got 3 players again for Illini, all in an awkward rotation. Bar Clutch Small, all who did at the time have no boost. Chewy Toast doesn't get the second touch they wanted off the corner. Yuddle forces the awkward defense. And again, awkward rotations now for Illini Black means that, well, I was going to say they're going to fall apart on the defensive side, but didn't even get to their defensive side. One player shows up out of left field, is able to quickly follow up and put something on.
That was a dangerous moment. Hand to chest and just sweating it out. And actually, you're going to have a shot opportunity because they're trying to bully them. The Illini have found some moments, and they're going to try and bury this one here. Clutch Small coming up right when the Illini need them. They had not scored in about 8 minutes of Rocket League time. This time around, they're not going to miss their chance.
That was great from Lotus as well, taking the 50 with the tail end of their car so that if they won it, which they did, it goes back into the middle, back into a dangerous position, and importantly to their teammate who's there to take a shot, or in that case, one off the backboard into a follow-up. Radio Silence takes one themselves, no boost on the defensive side, Clutch Small follows up again, blink and you miss it, Illini has the lead. You said it, after not scoring for what seems like a calendar year in Rocket League terms, they've got 2 in what, 10 seconds?
You know, I just got to think because, I mean, a shout out to our coaches. They're able to provide some fantastic facts about all of our awesome players. Maybe they were just on the decaf side of their coffee, finally putting a little bit of extra. Get that buzz happen, and Radio Silence will take a shot. It falls into traffic. It might have even hit a teammate. Another pop step. This is what's been benefiting Illini. As soon as they take that first step, are able to get that ball airborne, and then they start fighting for the backboard space. Blue Gold is often out of position. They've not been fighting for the wall as much as they have offensively. Defensively, they've been left between the bars, looking pretty similar to what Illinois has been doing often in those first couple of minutes, but both teams have shown up in the early half, but the late half of game number 4, it's going to be pivotal for either one to either go 3-1 or tie up this series.
At this point, Blue Gold could get some 7 brew into Yuddle and maybe bring this one back. A Midwest staple. They actually opened a 7 brew right next to where my house is in Maryland.
Nice.
And I was back for Christmas, and that line was unironically 3/4 of a mile long. And Yuddle seems to be activated by some caffeine in some way, shape, or form. Blue Gold realizing they've got to do something. Awkward bounce for Snoop. Oh! Ends up out of position. Somehow a third player, it's Chewy, gets a touch on that. At a bare minimum, they get it out of the middle. But still, something you can't afford to happen. Now, honestly, on a consistent basis for Blue Gold Varsity, Chewy Toast clears again, but with nothing to follow up on.
Every resource. Oh, trying to get the musty. Hoping for the trampoline if they can. Just off of their face. This one's still going to be hanging high. Oh, Chewy Toast abandoned ship. They thought that surely that was going to be touched by the defender. What a ballsy fake out to do it on your own goal line. Seconds remaining. Can Blue Gold be able to clutch up and find one more chance? Snoop doesn't have any boost. He has a defender in front of them, and Clutch Small just needs to let this one hit the floor. All of Illini staring at it. They bring it to the wall. No boost in the tank. They're going to get punished for that. Yuddle just hoping to chase after it, bring it from the ceiling, getting underneath it. They got to get it to a teammate. We're still airborne one more time. Got to chase corner. Chewy Toast in support, but it goes too high. They bring Yuddle to the other side again. He cannot make contact, and the Illini are going to go to match point in Game 5.
Surprisingly, there is such a thing as too much altitude on 0 seconds with limited boost. There was a chance for Blue Gold to put that in the middle at barely any feet off the ground in altitude, but it was popped up too far, and I kind of understand where you're coming from if you're Snoop there. You've got no boost. You know you want to do something with it. If you put it too far away from your car, there's a chance it gets grounded. But if you just put that airborne, there's nothing you can follow up on while stuck on the ground when you're ready for a pass like that. You have to treat 0 seconds as something very close to normal play. If you step way outside the ordinary, shout out Alex Warden, great artist. If you step way outside the ordinary when you're on 0 seconds, your teammates aren't going to know what to expect of you when you make even a decent pass, because that's objectively a bad pass during a normal game. It's a decent pass in 0 seconds, but because it's a bad pass during a normal game, your teammates aren't looking for anything close to that, and it was just way too close to the ceiling, wasn't going to go in regardless, and the Illini are able to just send that straight to the floor. 3-1 to a team who had won 3 games, that's the last time I'll say it, won 3 games coming into today. I can't believe it.
They've matched their season total. From the previous semester, this squad was able to go 2-5 in total record. They're hoping to at least match that. They would love to pull off something even greater. At this point in time, the Illini have a chance to go 4-1 through this series and get something so desperately needed in the form of a win. Blue Gold, their season is suddenly on the line. The math is tracking against them if they cannot catch up in this series.
Lotus already putting one through, and the blue-gold varsity squad becomes that much more nervous. 2 commitments beyond midfield, and Lotus is able to just slot it in the back of the net. Snoop again trailing across the goal. It's put basically where he was sat when the shot was on. Because of his momentum, he just could not trail backwards. And you said blue gold becoming nervous. Illini's been nervous for about 2 weeks at this stage. They need a decent bit of help. If blue gold loses this, they need all the help, or vice versa in that case. But blue gold really no longer controls their own destiny for the rest of the season, and that arguably becomes more dangerous than being stuck in last place.
For Illinois, feels like just letting it all hang loose. There's no reason to let anything be in your own head about it. If the nerves are out there, they're doing a great job of letting us not see them. The first minute of play, and this is the first time that we've actually got an opening goal from Illinois to, I guess, match the previous game. Trying to get a musty here. Radio Silence will lose their flip. A great challenge out of Blue Gold. They're going to let this one go out and over. A three-peat of succession of touches from Illini players. This is going to be a fake out, and they're hoping to just get it clear. They boom this one over the second man. Snoop will be there in time.
Yell trying to follow up, but bumps Snoop, or at least makes some negligible contact, maybe some net code, but either way, that communication really needs to be cleaned up before the final 2 minutes of this game if they want to advance the offensive side. Chewy loses the 50 in midfield, but I think a double commit from the Illini has bailed him out of what could have been a dangerous position, and a missed touch in midair bails the entirety of Blue Gold out of everything until Chewy Toast loses their wave dash flip on the wall.
Hoping to wall dash their way to keep up with that ball. It is a tough mechanic to still maintain, especially if you just didn't have a lot of momentum to begin with. So they do maintain at least positioning upfield. And look how much of this has become just strange possession. Illini really not too earnest to have to go upfield right now. They're making sure that everyone is filled up with boost, and then they quickly burn through literally all of it. Clutch Small, the handoff over to Radio Silence, and they're just taking away from Blue Gold. Blue Gold does not have the resources to move up with, sidewall and onwards, and this is precious clock that Blue Gold cannot afford. Solid shot on target is fended off.
Radio Silence, decent touch off the wall. Follow-up is there. Both players attacking it. Radio Silence ironically clears it himself. Not aware of the post, it seems. The fourth defender steps up for Blue Gold at a bare minimum. They're still trailing a goal, and they're down to the final 120 seconds. 2 minutes left in this series. If Blue Gold can't follow, Lotus gets back just in time. It's sat in the middle of the goal. Lotus can't follow up either. My goodness, at least something to keep it away from Yuddle, but that could have been dangerous. It really was. It could have been bad.
Just the narrowest margin of error right now for the Illini. Can they be able to post up their first series dub? 90 seconds is approaching. Lotus is slowing the entire thing down. We have only one goal in game number 5. After getting at least 3 to 4 to 5 in all our previous games, this one has become a microscopic moment where you can divide every single degree that's been gathered. But as it backtracks all the way into orange territory, Illini, they can burn even more precious seconds, and Blue Gold needs to press forward.
Much as this may be a collegiate Rocket League game, it feels like a college basketball game with a team up by 15 with 5 minutes left. They're burning every second of every shot clock, and unfortunately for Blue Gold, there's no shot clock in Rocket League. There's nothing they could do to force Illini to be any quicker. Clutch Small, amazing to get back on defense in the overcommitment because you really have to if you're Blue Gold. May very well cost them the series. Radio Silence basically presses the mute button on the best of 7, and Illini Black all but closing out this BO7 in just 5 games.
Radio Silence has been ever present in so many of the opportunities of success for Illinois. If you're Blue Gold, you have 40 seconds to possibly salvage your season. Yuddle needs to take it here. Will not be able to get the second touch, and the next one thereafter is Radio Silence. Their finger is to their lips. A hush is upon the field. There is nothing more rewarding than that which basically is a library, where otherwise Blue Gold was so loud coming in.
20 seconds remaining, and Snoop just having to trail back. He's got some help. At a bare minimum, this can be cleared, but a missed flip. Maybe the communication from Chewy Toast forcing him away. This gets it past midfield. We're in the same scenario that we saw a game and change ago where Illini could have scored a goal to force a kickoff. They still have time. It needs to go through. It does. With 1 second remaining, Blue Gold is mathematically possible. But just like Illini's hopes right now of getting the playoffs, it is just a possibility. Probable is still up for debate.
They have to get underneath the ball. If you're going to send it, you're going to have to send two. They're going to send someone from Illini to jump on top of the ball. It must be a dig. They actually send no one. They go backboard. Wait, what? Are you kidding? There's a second. What?
Watch Radio Silence. I don't think Radio Silence. No, Radio Silence misflipped. Oh, no. He goes turtle mode. I don't even know if it was a misflip. Is he trolling? Okay. What?
That was the most collegiate thing I've ever seen.
Huh? Okay, well, that happened. Radio Silence is trying to make up for lost time now. Gets a flip reset. Wait a second. Could follow up. They're going to score anyway. Wait, no, they're not. Lotus, what are you doing? Lotus, what are you doing? Oh, no. What is going on?
This is the most scholastic esports sequence I've seen in a while. Suddenly, what was a 2-1, good to go, 1 second left. All you have to do is slam the ball down. They let Blue Gold get a free shot. We go into bonus time. What could have been a freebie at the near side post then becomes chaotic. We've gone somehow 30 seconds forward, and Illini maintains control, but only just.
Yuddle gets it past. Wait a second. Miscommunication on the defensive side for Illini trailing back. No way! Snoop is able to put it through, coming out of left field. Yuddle's second touch, good enough. And Clutch Small's touch there threw off his teammate. Radio Silence couldn't track back in time. Clutch Small had no boost. And Blue Gold Varsity, hey, that may be good news for Illini Black. I said Blue Gold Varsity's chances of sending it to OT, much less winning, are about as good as Illini's at making the playoffs. Maybe they're a playoff-bound team now. What's going on?
That was the most collegiate stuff I have seen in a long time. That was insane. What happened? W Team Lamau, thanks guys. Like what? I can't. The analysis cannot even happen for this. Just they didn't send anybody. They thought, oh, you're gonna hit the ball. There's not gonna be enough time. The clock starts when you hit the ball. You gotta hit the ball, and that was a free shot. No one was. Did they think that their teammates were just gonna pop up and read it? Like what? Oh my God, that's.
I think Radio Silence is doing their best RoboCop impression on that kickoff. Wait, I have my controller here. Hold up.
I couldn't see. Just where to go? That was the most. Like NFL Bears thing I've ever seen. That was like
what?
Okay.
but you can save timeouts.
Well,
to the next game.
Yeah, apparently. All right. Game 5 happened. That means for Blue Gold, this season is not over. It wasn't mathematically over, at least when this happened, because they still have another series to go. But the fact remains, the series had a second left. We have to press forward. Game 6 is here.
I'm going to say unfortunately. Like, not actually, but Clutch Small now almost puts it in, gets help again, or Blue Gold gets help again from the fourth defender. I can't believe, I'm still at a loss for words. It's been like a minute and a half.
This is why we play the game, or at least why we tell the players, go out there and play the dang game. You don't leave it on kickoff. You got to go out and get it. Yuddle knows that like anyone, that Blue Gold has been given a gift, a big pickup by Lotus to stop that one in the top 90. Chewy Toast trying to at least threaten, but they cannot get back down to the ball, and then suddenly becomes a 3 versus 1 as they send the final defender. Yuddle's around the back corner, but Chewy Toast will fill the gap.
When you get to those XV1 or XV0 scenarios, because of demos, you have to rush it. There have been times where Illini has not rushed. By the way, Lotus is in a battle bus. I don't know if you said that already.
Nope.
What? Okay, I guess. I thought I saw them leave the lobby at some point. I didn't realize why. A lot of times you'll see it for car switches, and they'll go to like a Fennec or something, or even to the Dominus. But Battle Bus is a decision. I'm a Fortnite fan as much as the next guy.
I think,
Sure.
I think it has the Octane body, if I'm not mistaken. So it's fine. It's a viable car. And wow. Okay, you were talking about the fourth man right now. They have shown up. I don't know if there was like a, increase your roster DLC, but truly blue gold. That extra man has been absolutely here. 2 minutes so far, and a couple of saves that happened from them. Hoping for a floor pinch. Yellow and company. They will combine to get the first goal of Game 6.
They have 5 players on their team. They have a 4th defender and now a 5th attacker. Watch this hit the crossbar and go through. What did Illini Black do to get completely bamboozled by the woodwork now on both sides of the pitch? Ruined on both ends. That's unfortunate.
That's the good old Rocket League RNG gods at work, just letting you know, hey, you should have finished this series a little bit ago. But less than 3 minutes approach. Illini have dug themselves out of deeper holes, but less weird situations. Boost will be stolen by Clutch Small as Illini try to do so. Oh, the nice jumper as they actually go for a floor pinch. They get the bouncer over a couple of defenders. But unfortunately for the Illini, they do not collect that one onto the score sheet.
Clutch Small, not the greatest of clearances either. Gets shut down. Radio Silence able to collect themselves on the wall. But you need a follow-up. It's just for a 50-50 ball. Yuddle having to trail back. And Clutch Small, again, it's basically a game of who can get to the ball that is in the air, in the corner, better than the other team. Finally, it gets cleared, but a demo in the process. Radio Silence still trying to do something with it. This is a dangerous follow-up if you're going to have one. Off the backboard, who's there to do the same? At least not on goal for Lotus.
I don't know if the Illini have just lost focus. Oh, double pre-jump. They're trying to get to one another. You have Clutch Small and Radio Silence have been connecting with one another a lot in the same capacity of some of those pre-jump passes. Doesn't work out that time. Yuddle is daring Clutch Small to come out to them. They do so. Nice flick twist. A second layer. This one, big save by Chewy Toast, but it does get confirmed. Small comes through.
Goal line defense needs to keep the ball off the goal line. A decent first touch for Chewy Toast, and Yuddle gets there, but Yuddle takes an awkward touch because they didn't do so with momentum going with them. They lose all their momentum as soon as they try and backtrack or backflip that one out. You need to flip into it in a way rather than out of it and through. And that's why it's able to be put back. If there's any more momentum behind that ball, it becomes a true 50-50 and just stalemated.
Snoop knows that they cannot overcommit forward. If they had taken an extra car link, that ball went over their head. Now in retreat is the Illini. All the 1 goal difference had them before. Evened up. As again, they've been able to even up 2-0 holes before at that point in time. But with a minute now, as chaos reigns supreme, late term of game number 5, everything seems a lot more kosher, a lot more standard at this point of what could be our penultimate game. Before this one goes the full distance, Chewy Toast! Oh, depth perception is tough.
I want to know what happened here. We see Lotus go through. It looks like Lotus got a bump here. No, Chewy Toast had to avoid the bump. Wow. It's a game of a lose-lose scenario for Chewy Toast. And just a good play for Lotus to speed through that, even when they're not making further contact with the ball. And now they actually have a decent chance of double touching this. They have the boost! They end up getting a double tap off their opponent, but they can't get it into the goal.
Gotta have the second man. Not even just that. You gotta have all 3 from Blue Gold really showing up into this game. 30 seconds approaching. They were given an extra chance. That life has basically burned through the majority. Radio Silence, they're the next one up. Oh, they already get another demo. This is a collective. Watch out! As soon as that demo happened, the third man came through. Chewy Toast stepped up right here. They were confused on how to collect it, and Small never let the opportunity go by the wayside.
Chewy Toast giving me some baseball flashbacks of Andre Satoria, the famed Czech electrician. I'll tell you why in a second. But radio silence, my goodness, that is insane to see back-to-back goals put up after a ball just backboard, a decent touch from a blue gold defender. The reason that he gives me reminiscence of a Czech electrician, he's a baseball player for the Czech team in the World Baseball Classic. He famously is just literally an electrician and has a job. At this point, so does Clutch Small. He's got 2 jobs, as a matter of fact. And is still able to just put goals in the back of the net, despite the fact he's otherwise occupied. Seemingly more than comfortable putting this one through. 4-1, and make it 4-2. A goal for the road for Blue Gold Varsity, maybe for some tiebreakers later on, but you have to get pretty deep in the tie-breaking scenarios for that one to matter. It's the 4-2 win in this series that's going to matter for Black, and what a series it was for him.
It really was, and they could have improved their chances to salvage this season if they let, the previous game end out. But maybe there was some kind of thing. So it's apparently there's apparently going to be some solid after activities for these awesome students. Also, didn't that same pitcher pitch like a 4+ inning shutout against Japan?
4.2, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
You
know what?
That's why it reminded me of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, trying to do what they could against it, and for the Illini, we could have been out of here at least a game sooner. But for Blue Gold, there is the chance that they have to get through this next series, wherever that's going to be for week number 7, and then they're going to have to mathematically drive themselves into an opportunity to just sit there at around that 4, 5, 6 mark and see if anyone fumbles the bag. That was wild. I need to see Illini at full strength when apparently they just need to imagine the season doesn't matter and they just play their hearts out, because they just let everything out. That was the most collegiate thing I'd ever seen in that series.
And also, side note, going into this last week of the season, this game for Blue Gold, they take on Purdue White. And Purdue's the other team that they are in the neighborhood of bringing back for 4th place. It comes down to Purdue White losing this week and North Dakota Black losing this week. That's the only chance they have. And I do want to correct myself. Illini Black does not have a mathematical chance. I thought there was going to be 1 extra game. There's not. So there is no mathematical chance for them to make it. However, if Blue Gold gets a win next week, beats Purdue, and Purdue loses this week alongside North Dakota losing both games, they've got a chance at reaching tiebreakers. But they would need to sweep next week and get some help. So,
They actually do have a rescheduled match. I just looked on the good old League OS. They have a rescheduled match with Michigan JV1 that's happening tonight. So they're going to do their other match tonight.
Okay, so in that case, yes, there is still a mathematical possibility of them actually joining that tiebreaker.
Yeah, which is
Illini.
Insane. Okay. But for all the math that's happening, and that's what most of the season ends up boiling down to, what you started with, the downhill slide, and then where you're ending in the gutter at the end. That's exactly what this has all turned into. So good showcase. We had Central A, Division 4. You guys really showed up, and honestly, shout out over to the Illini, getting a little bit Rocket League their gameplay in late term, but still giving us a good show. But we've got another piece of the show right after this short break. It's going to be a matchup in Division 7, Waldorf and Missouri Southern. 2 teams that made the playoffs in the fall. How they're going to fare against one another, we'll be finding out right after this.
to you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for some good old NECC rock. I'm Hell Monkey Man alongside Master Chief, as well as Time to Light. As we've already got our second match underway and ready to go, at least. It's going to be a Division 7 matchup between the Vikings and the Lions. Two teams that, as we had looked at it in the green room here at TTL, both are in a really good spot to make the playoffs, but this is kind of a deciding factor for both right here, right now, tonight.
Well, this first week, or this first of the last 2 weeks, could be the deciding factor for both these rosters, especially given who they play in the near future. I'm really personally offended that you kept a ringer of a caster away from me for so long. That was rude of you.
This is me.
Does he have anything to say?
Yeah. He's purring.
He's going to knock the octane over. Watch
Oh,
the
he does
octane.
not. He's just doing cat things. That's fine. All right. You can go down here. All right. Yeah, he's been with me for like 15 years. Actually, he's 16 years old. So, you know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's an old man. But hey,
You have a
he's
driver's license at this point.
I know. He's retired though. So we got to leave him over there to do some work. But for these awesome students though, we had been doing some discussing for this. If Waldorf wins tonight, 4-2, at worst 4-3, pretty good mark depending on how everything goes now next week to at least make a top 4 appearance. So Missouri Southern, they would really like this win, especially go to even 500 because next week they have to face the number 1 team. That's not a very good schedule to have to suddenly pick up your season and make it work, especially for both squads where Waldorf was the number 1 seed in the Central playoffs in the fall and end up falling in a game 7 in the semifinals to go down into the 3rd place match and then fumble it there in a game 7 as well. For Missouri Southern, it was a first rounder, I think like a 4-2-4-1. So they would love a chance to be able to make up for it, especially with both teams looking at a shot at nationals.
Importantly for Waldorf going into this last game, or these last 2 full series, but going into next week, they play Clark. That's currently the 7 team. Clark only has 1 win on the season. This is a very reasonable position where if Waldorf wins here with their map differential, I'm thinking Counter-Strike. We should have had that game earlier. I'm still upset we didn't. With their game differential going into this week, there's a very decent chance that a win here guarantees them a top 4 seed. Could be something they have to worry about on tiebreakers, but still would be one that they lock through, and Vader knows that right off the bat. The most acute of angles, if you will, going back to last game there, Hail Monkey Man, and he makes a statement in the first 5 seconds. What, 4 touches?
If you got to get the protractor and you hit that 100 degree. It's real flat, but just barely not. We also got in the first couple of weeks, we got to see Missouri Southern with Clued, Alight, and Blockstain. This team is really dangerous, and I'm going to be looking at a lot at Clued to see if they're clued into getting this one all put together here for the Lions. But for Jono Tono, Radial, as well as Vader, I mean, you're going to be seeing a lot of this activity, much the same. Maybe a little bit on the individual dribbling, but fundamentally, both these squads here for a reason. They've competed really deep in the playoffs. They can be able to get some of these awesome passes just around the perimeter outside.
And importantly for Missouri Southern, they've played some high-level teams and kept it close. AVL, another close team they have in that 2-6 near tie. All 4 of those teams 3 through 6 are within a game of each other. They made it 4-3 in a loss versus AVL, but they took it to 7 games. And then the following week didn't have an easy run of things either. 4-3 loss to Hendrix College, who was the number 1 team at the time. By no means is this an easy trip, but this is a team that could very reasonably keep it close. Should they need tiebreakers later, they could at least keep it close against Waldorf.
They played 30 games. They've gone 15-15. You really can't ask for more to at least stay competitive, except maybe to just be able to win it out and not have to play so many. I think they have the 2nd most games played in their division. Blockstain. They just keep up the rotation. They were cycling this front right side corner so many times, and eventually they got someone to bite. That 2nd touch on the bouncer does even us up.
I was wondering if there was a 2nd touch when we saw that from the wider angle. Turns out, yes, there was, and it was arguably the more important of the 2. Nasty to tie things up for Missouri Southern. Blockstain tries to pop it and go after it again, but a good bump to keep him away, and it could set up a follow-up goal. Can Vader get back down? No, too much of the angle to cost him. By no means are they out of this one. Even a miss there for Radial.
So the solid 50-50, they end up getting a jam slam onto the back goalie, and there's actually no one present to try and defend this one until the very last second as Radial Lamb wanted to just be a bit sheepish onto that next attack, see if they can make some level of connection. And so far, a lot of the activity that we're seeing right now, Time to Light, is Waldorf with Vader. I don't know if they end up updating the year, but it seems 2025, a pretty good year for them as they end up being consistent from underneath the crossbar. A Light Planes does just enough, sends Vader back to the old space. Well, I forgot what they call it. Death Star, there it is. Yeah, there we go. Forgot what it was, man.
That's really funny that A Light Planes has the Death Star goal animation, and they're playing Vader 2025. that's so funny. I thought you were just saying it. I thought it was a moon for a second. I was like, why is he talking about the Death Star? Oh, yeah, Vader. Oh, wait, there is one. Let's see what Blockstain's goal animation is. I think it's significantly less appropriate for Star Wars. However, it's still a goal, and it's still one that Missouri Southern very much need to try and pull away from Waldorf. They had some issues closing out games in the first 2 weeks of the season, which is the real reason that they took 7-game series to do so in the first 3 weeks, weeks 2 and 3. If they can hold out this one, 2-goal leads, very, very helpful. That all-important insurance goal could be the difference maker.
You look at it on paper, and both these teams, it's feeling like there's so much of the season still left to be played, but there's also crazy antics that could eliminate both from out of the playoffs. Two teams that definitely have been competing very deep in Division 7. And with Waldorf, I mean, they've had success in previous semesters. They've been able to really show up when they absolutely need to. I like the creativity of Jono Tono Fono, JTF. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but they're hitting me with the phonetics. But down to the Vikings, hoping to right this ship right now. Jono Tono Fono getting involved a lot more often late term. They've got a strike opportunity, but they had to get it through one man. That was Blockstein saying no.
They're going to drop this one off the ceiling. Doesn't have their flip anymore. They just kind of jumped quite literally off the ceiling instead of letting gravity take the reins. And Jonathan Afono ends up trying to play a game of pool by using an orange player to cue shot the ball forward. Unsuccessful and trying to turn it into a goal, though.
Slowly but surely, Waldorf hoping to be some block breakers. Break down this wall in front of them in the form of Missouri Southern. They've got a third man, but no, the flip backwards. Unfortunately, the second man not prepared for the Vikings, and they had a third that was trying to collect some extra boosts. So that's going to be an opportunity going by the wayside, squandered for how far back they are. Radio Lamb is at least trying to make sure that this one stays upfield. It's actually solid positioning. They're going to be called off by Vader. They've been consistently persisting around the perimeter. Unfortunately for Waldorf, they are running out of time here for game number 1.
One thing you'll see going level by level, collegiate esports, scholastic esports, or really any level of Rocket League for that matter, is as the level gets lower, the amount of variability raises. That's how quickly you can come back into a game. The one thing that is held true across the board is in the final 40 seconds, you need a goal outside of 10 to 15 to bring it back to a 1-goal deficit to have a reasonable shot at getting in. This is where they can do so. Radio Lamb puts it through. Vader helps them do so. And just outside that 20-second margin, that's the level you need for Waldorf. This becomes a lot more reasonable of a game than if they did so with, let's say, 10 seconds left.
You had mentioned how much we get to compare this to basically basketball sometimes with the clock management. This is exactly the 2-minute drill, or being able to do the same thing. You have those timeouts. It really slows down the game. Now suddenly everything acute comes through. Oh, he catches it on his nose. Are you kidding me? If he'd been able to get right behind the ball, that would have been a goal. They're going to play with time. Blockstein has no boost. He's calling for reinforcements. His teammates go high. That's going to be a bouncer. They're hoping to deflect it, and they end up ahead of the ball. And Missouri Southern, by the skin of their teeth, they'll take game number 1.
Waldorf University didn't make it easy by any means. 9 shots on goal for Vader, by the way. Jonathan Afono and Radio Lamb had 2 combined. But it really just was Vader leading the offense for them a lot here. From basically start to finish if you're Waldorf. The issue was, I talked about variability. The one thing that doesn't change is when less players get involved across the board, you get less success. Trying to lead it all to one player is by no means an easy trip, and I feel like that was the case for Waldorf.
They were playing a very deep third ban, and it wasn't in the same way that we got out of Blue Gold in that previous series where everything was very fast, people were connecting. It felt like even when we saw that sweeping third, that they didn't have a lot of boost, still we're trying to keep that one forward, but it was a lot more, all right, keep the ball in, but not really be an effective or impactful player as to where that ball was going to go. It was dump it into the zone and let apparently Vader off the leash. Never put them on a leash. It said 911. Might as well dial that number. Don't actually do it because that dude was on fire as he continued to just pepper the backboard. Now, sometimes game ones are also completely different. I'm not Italian. I'm going to stop pinching my fingers. But like it feels like they are who's ready right now? Who's the fastest on the sticks? Who's hitting the mouse to the old desktop? If you play mouse and keyboard in Rocket League, you're a rarity, by the way.
I do.
Do you? Do you
I do.
really?
I've played all 1,900 hours of Rocket League on mouse and keyboard. And I have
Do
a
you do
story
that
for
with
it, but I'll say
all-
that for a break.
Do you do that with all car games? I need to know.
No.
Okay.
Rocket League's the only one, and it's because boost and forward drive are two separate buttons. And I can't have the forward button that gives me the most speed be not right trigger, and it feels very weird for me. So, yeah.
Understandable. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, for all of you out there, well, regardless of how you play, right now you're seeing some solid gameplay from two possible playoff contenders. As Waldorf wants to get right back into the driver's seat, they're not going to be a number one seed this time around. They want to control their own destiny. For Missouri Southern, they're trying to stay as a constant challenger, and they've been doing very well here at the beginning of game 2.
Now, there's, by the way, a very reasonable possibility that there is a three-way tie at the end of this week for that all-important third place position. And the reason is because in this second to last week, Hendrix College, who's currently in 5th, they're playing Drury. So that's, I'm not going to say a guaranteed loss, but certainly possible. And Waldorf, again, a situation they know they don't control their own destiny if they lose this game. Another early goal, and courtesy of the same guy, by the way. It's Vader who's doing all the heavy lifting.
Hey, you know, Vader did a lot of heavy lifting. You just have to get him to raise his hand and clinch the air. It's just a matter if it's heavy to him or just the force. And so far, the force has been with this dude a lot. But most so, shout out to the peeps that reminded me the last time I got to see Missouri Southern, has been all over this ball. But if they lock down Vader, I gotta wonder about the identity that we can get from this, because Jonah Tonofono, this is that key player that started really showing up about the middle of game number 1. That was a scary factor left unaccounted for at times by Mosa.
Yep. And if you're looking at this for Missouri Southern, there are individuals who you could just focus on, depending on how much prep work they do. In Rocket League, there's some teams who never watch a game of their opponents, others who will watch countless hours of VODs, depending on how much is available. And if Vader's taking all the shots here, quite literally calling all the shots as well, you can know that. Just say, hey, put a caller who's individually just thinking about Vader 2025. Only worry about what they're doing, and it kind of frees them up a lot less. Even with little boosts here, Vader working for the 50-50, and everybody else is trailing afterwards. That could be the impactful part.
If Kobe ever got the ball, they double teamed. Sometimes ineffectively. Oh, but sometimes they put it at least off the woodwork of light planes. Was hoping that one would drop in. Now we'd see the Death Star one more time. Unfortunately for the Lions, that one ended up being at least wanton for the time being. Midway mark now of game number 2. And we've got a 1-0 on the other side of the pitch. Waldorf holding on to a very narrow margin as Missouri Southern continues to just send this one long and distant. The light planes will be able to find at least one, but he's got a teammate there after. Big save out of Vader.
Tonofono kind of just slowly trailing through the midfield, following the ball there, allowing the rest of their team to free up elsewhere. But a missed pass, backflip to set it up in the middle, nearly scores. Follow-up is still there, though, and an overcommitment. Vader's been demoed. Nobody's sitting in goal to defend it, and a missed jump for Radial Lamb. It costs them. This one's tied at 1 apiece, and the demo in the corner throws off the rotations. Vader 100% would have been there in time for that, but because they had the 3-second demo timer, they don't get there in time.
That's the marked man. You gotta take away no matter what it is, especially if it's Vader. But if you're anyone rotating from that goal line and sweeping between the pipelines, you've got to take out the next person in the rotation. But Vader, always present, always persistent. They will get this lead back.
like to remind you, Anakin Skywalker was lit about 95% on fire by lava and then came back as a mostly mechanical man. You can blow the guy up, but doesn't mean he's gone by any means. Also a reminder, Kobe, when he scored 81, was basically double teamed the entire time. You were talking about that. Bam Adebayo yesterday was fouled so many times. He went 37 for 43 from the free throw line when he scored 83 points for the Miami Heat. He's now the second all-time in a single game in the NBA. So I was actually looking that up before you said Kobe, and I'm like, wow, he said it. I'm going to follow up.
Ooh, big save out. Shout out, by the way, to all the sports facts. This guy, hire him. If you're not hiring him, you're not doing the right thing. Trying to be able to just block out is block stain, by the way. Seeing if they could just completely screen away at least one defender. Vader not with a lot of boost. They did not catch that midfield line boost. It does take two to tango and to stop Vader in sequence. This one will pinch away. Radio Lamb will be the one on the first touch. I don't know if they end up letting it go over into Vader's hands one more time. We at least get that. But you see that they're vying for a lot more of these bump plays. From outside the perimeter, Vader will be at least stolen out. He ends up coming back, bumping Clued, and that actually takes away a chance for MSSU to get back to that ball with another opportunity.
I'm going to go wide, but Radio Lamb's still there to follow up. 50-50 doesn't go their way. Down to the final 35. Vader's awkwardly out of position here. This is where Waldorf can get caught off. If they don't get a second or third touch here and have another player in their rear rotation, that's where they could get caught out. Radio Lamb, another good touch to just clear the length of the field. Sometimes you don't want to go for that one-touch passes across midfield. When you're up one goal with 15 seconds left, that's almost exclusively what you're doing.
Oh, set up by Jonathan Ofono after Vader got that next touch. It's going to have to go from end to end, yard to yard. They steal the boost from Clued. Vader left with a freebie. He's just going to make them work for it. Moso got a go-go if they intend to find OT. One touch to the outside. They've got a light planes underneath it. He's going for the doink. Trying for it and slam it down. Clued, he does. We're going bonus time.
That is how you keep the ball in midair. Don't overcommit yourself to any individual touch. You could see, even if this one wasn't scored, a light plane was right next to it with a full boost because they just backflipped and kept it in the air, but not out of a reachable distance for somebody with limited boost. Clued does that with maybe 15 boosts the entire sequence, and now they could score immediately. They missed just barely, but Radio Lamb limited themselves. Blockstein was just going to level it at 50-50. This by no means is a done deal, even with the awkward engagement in midfield, and luckily Light Planes just barely gets boost before going for the ball.
Trying for a floor pinch, and look how Vader has decided, you know what, I need to steal this ball no matter if I am rotating into my net or away from it. Blockstein going to take away the first one. Jonathan Ofono goes upwards, and this is a great block. Radio Lamb and them are now locked at the bumper. This is jumping. Anyone's got to get there. Jonathan Ofono is the first one to find it.
Now in transition, Radio Lamb gets it across midfield, beats the only man back, and that's good enough to win game two. Awkward couple of situations, final minute and change there for Waldorf. Defensive side to start off and end regulation, and arguably more on the defense to begin the overtime period. But Waldorf University does bring it back, and all it takes is a couple touches sometimes. In Radio Lamb's case, all it took was one.
Magical between both these teams. And with all the pretenses that we've put to this matchup and with the positioning that they have in the standings for the central side of Central B Division 7 matches, this feels like a playoff game. It feels like right here through this week to next week. Next week feels almost like a given, even though nothing ever is, based on what we saw with an 0-4 Illini squad just a match ago. Both these teams know that this one means a lot to either be even 500 at 3-3 or to find that 2-4, 4-2 separation between them. They know that they may be the ones to try and define what the rest of this 8 stack of teams looks like for the last 2 weeks of the season. Now, what a gut check that one was. Waldorf recognizing that one went haywire. 0-second Rocket League occurred. Great just heads up play by Amoso, but it's also making sure when you have the opportunity, when you're like, all right, this should have gone in, but they didn't have the accuracy. We need to transition right now. They did so.
It's also, you talked about playoff game. This is the rare occasion, I think, for Waldorf where it is a double elimination playoff game. You're still possibly playing for tournament life. You're playing for a better position in the tournament, but an elimination doesn't, or a loss doesn't entirely eliminate them. Importantly, because Hendricks, who is currently in 5th and on the outside looking in at 2-3, they're playing Niner Esports Club Academy. a team that has lost 5 games, not matches, games on the season this week. Drury University, who's second, they're playing AVL, who is currently in 4th, one of those other 3-2 teams alongside this Waldorf squad. So, with those two teams playing 1 and 2, there's a reasonable position where this win could, again, tie things up at that 4th or 3rd place position. If Waldorf wins, they could run away with 3rd individually going to last week of play, where, you guessed it, they play the number 7 team as it stands.
Yeah, and that's great math for the end of the season to be able to help you maybe relax, not sign off on anything, but definitely saying, all right, this is a much moment that we should be able to take advantage of. And no matter who you are, at least for the side of Missouri Southern, everything is uphill from here. You have to play this squad right in front of you with Waldorf. You have to play the number 1. Then you have, if you can get there, a spring playoff. But that is still an if until you confirm this. Now, we've gone through 2 games. We've seen big comeback. We've already seen the overtime. I would want to say game number 1, a much more dominant, we are here, we are ready, Missouri Southern in game number 1. Game number 2, completely the opposite, a much more nail biter. We have to gut check this situation. Game 3, I feel like we had loosened up, tightened up, and it may still remain just as kind of tight going through these next couple of games until these teams just start kind of having a shootout. That's pretty typical Rocket League. Might have that all the way around and again. But from Waldorf, did they escape with one in that previous game?
Absolutely, 100%. I've never been more confident on a question any other casters ever asked me. You're looking at that not only for them, but for Vader individually. We talked about this at the end of the first game. Vader can't be that individual. Vader can't just try and do it alone. It's a 3v3 game, not a 1 and 2 teammates who kind of sit in goal v3 game. At that point, Vader got some help. And not only did he do so in overtime when Radiolam just kind of had the ball fall to them and then they won, we'll say, a one-on-one to bring it to the goal, but he had helped throughout the game. On the defensive stage when that was set through, that was really the difference maker, where Vader wasn't asked to do everything at all stages of the game. They were also getting that assistance from outside. And that needs to be a consistent factor. For Waldorf, some of those goals are going to help you through some individual teams that don't have 1 or 2 players who can play defense against a mechanically skilled player like Vader. This is not one of those teams. Missouri Southern's not going to let Vader walk all over them. And you need your teammates there to either make the passes or get the goals off of Vader's passes while he becomes the red herring, hey, follow me, going back to the Ted Lasso, getting Jamie Tart to go, hey, pass me the ball. I would like the ball. Give me the ball, please. Great clip.
Well, see, I feel like the key thing too as well, because we have so much of Vader, we have them all the time. They're gonna be there all the time. I feel like if the sneakiest player on this pitch might end up being Radiolam. Because when you have your third that much more quietly kind of supports into Joe Tonofono, who's really kind of being that workhorse in the middle, as soon as Vader gets to have a comfortable seat into a second or third man rotation and kind of chilling, Radiolam becomes one of the most unknowns because they've not seen them threaten their back net on the side of Missouri Southern. And that's really something of like we cannot lose track of this guy. Same as well from Moso, because Clue showed you that they're not going to give up on a play. Blockstain did the exact same kind of thing, and it's just about them being able to be a tiny bit more accurate. I think they had a winning shot into the early portion of that overtime as well. So this is also basically in-season style like repetitions. These guys have been playing together for quite a long time, and obviously had some level of success to get into that early playoff in the Central side in the fall. So got to see if that does exist. To just, all right, we can be calm. We can feed it to one another, because it is a very top-heavy isosceles for the side of Waldorf. I bring up triangles again. I'm so sorry about the trigonometry. I know I have an entire book about it. If you want me to send it to you, I've got notes. It's from like 10th grade. Shout out, by the way, to you saying what was it? I love algebra, and that's where I draw the line. That works on so many levels. That's
I was going to add to it. I got another level for it. You talked about
What?
the unknown. As good as I am at algebra and sometimes statistics, I will take a known variable over an unknown variable every day of the week. When you become that unknown variable, nobody likes to solve for X. If you already solve for X by watching VODs beforehand, not in a game scenario, you know what to expect. In this game, when Vader is off in the wings and somebody else is taking the reins, you don't. You're always looking for, oh, hey, when's Vader going to get the ball? Who's going to pass it to Vader? Where's Vader going to go with this? How are they going to try and score? When you include players 2 and 3 in that, and Radial Lamb, especially as we saw at the tail end of things, that becomes the unknown. And if I know anything from college, they don't make you do a whole lot of algebra in a university setting. Most of that is done in like 9th grade. And once you're done with 9th grade algebra, you hope to not have to touch it again in your life, and you become a little rusty. That seems to be the case here, at least after game 2 for Missouri Southern.
I'm sad that I can't just get another college degree with more algebra. We're all really good at it. You know, it's pretty nice as well. Also, in case you guys did not know, because you're watching Rocket League live right now, you're actually getting drops if you had your whole thing linked together.
We are?
Letting you. Yeah, you are. Yeah. So if you didn't know,
Oh
they have a whole thing. So go and get if you're watching on Twitch. If you're on a VOD from like YouTube, hello, future you. But yeah, you guys can like turn your colors or your car different colors. You can get goal explosions. You get all the stuff. So like, go get the things. You know, click the little button.
Wait a second.
Claim your stuff. Yeah.
My Epic account, is it connected to my Twitch account? What is this?
Oh my gosh, you got to do that thing. But also, we're not sponsored. But I'm just letting you know, as someone that has had this game for like 10 years, go get your stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can go and get. We are resetting the lobby. In case you're wondering why we are putting this face and that face all over to your faces, it's because the thing
We're really
broke.
pretty.
Yeah, we're also gorgeous. Thank you for the beard shout-outs to all of you. I grew it myself, so it's very red and orange. You want to see it be
my favorite
more
thing about him.
orange? That's the only thing about me. Hold on. Wait. I think is it this one?
Oh.
No.
What are you, the Lorax?
Yeah, I speak for the bees, I think. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong one. Okay, we're leaving.
Thank
Okay,
goodness.
cool. Yeah,
Thank goodness. Thank you,
I was
production.
about to have. Look, we were one step away from me doing my breakfast podcast, where I just talk about waffles for like an hour. So let's go to game 3.
I'm hungry, man. Don't talk about food.
Dude, I'm so hungry.
Well, Missouri Southern with some midfield control, and all right, Plains, a very good settle, intentionally, I believe, to put it in the offensive third. Blockstain off the backboard, looking for some help here, but even with the pressure from Klude, no boost for Klude. Despite the fact they were not pressured in the midfield themselves. Follow-up touches there, but Vader cuts across their teammate, gets boost and the ball. Blink and you miss it, they've cleared 2/3 of the field.
Oh
Wait, they've
boy,
scored.
and they're about.
They've scored.
Oh, there it is.
What?
Wow. Okay. Okay. Vader gets one solid touch. Boost still wasn't even necessary, and it was the whiff going straight up the corner. Jono Tonofono making sure, hey man, I will give you a backstop, slam this one off my face, and get this goal. But Vader, absolutely like a rogue in the night, stealing that one away, and a light plane sends Vader straight back to the Death Star.
Jonathan Tonofono gets credit for a quick assist, include spectating that goal in all essence after the kickoff. He's like, hey, I'll take one myself. 5 seconds removed from being 0-0, and it's 1-1. Blink and you miss it, we're back to where we started.
I have literally missed this entire game because I've just been constantly blinking. There's a hair in my eye. But for the first 50 seconds or so, the Lions and the Vikings have been dueling. Radial Lamb. Oh, that's going to be a bouncer.
What?
They are not at home.
No Under Armour subscription? Where's the house to protect? Jonathan Tonofono waiting for the ball to fall. Their car had no idea that Blockstain was already in the midfield with enough boost to put a dangerous shot on. And Radial Lamb on the far side of that rotation just wasn't even in the neighborhood of the goal. And Missouri Southern in the lead. We have not really seen Waldorf comfortably come back yet. This is where they need to be able to do so. Jonathan Tonofono gets it across. Blockstain goes into the goal willingly. That's a decision.
Whew. That was a squishy save, if I've ever seen a squishy save, with full confidence knowing, or at least believing, that that ball was just going to carry that line, and they stuck with their guns. So solid grouping by the Lions out of Moso at this point in time. And I mean, I want to say it in a very positive fashion, but hold this thought because Vader wants me to say something else. There is not a highlight player on Missouri Southern. There is a highlighted team. Everyone's getting their pocket, their moment, their shining light onto them and showing up in the rotation that they're needed most.
The best teams will always have players who can highlight themselves, not players who are highlighted. because if those players have an off game, singular, then the offense can fall apart. Missouri Southern's the team that can have players highlighted, not who have highlight players. And that's, I think, why they've looked a little bit better in this series overall. Vader gets a save, but feeling like he has to do everything, he overcommits his teammate, despite the fact that arguably his teammate should have had that.
Vader is running rampant and running loose. Radio Lamb and Jonathan Fono are lost in the sauce. That one comes straight back down. It was an off touch here. Jonathan Fono, they had already retreated, and Radio Lamb was lost in no man's land. This was gonna be forever just dropped as just a what if. And Allied Plains once more sends us down the trench, and suddenly Missouri Southern is up 2.
I think Allied Plains thought that was going over and it was going to comfortably hit the backboard. I didn't even think it was a wounded duck enough to go off the crossbar, and it was. And a decent team pinch to get it fully cleared. Now nobody's comfortably back. Where's the defense? Luckily, Blockstein doesn't put it on goal. That probably would have been a dagger with 2 minutes remaining in regulation. Allied Plains gets a touch before evaporating from this earth for the time being, and still Missouri Southern is comfortably putting on pressure. And scoring? What?
Hey, okay, hold on. I need to see the collision that caused this, because I saw the chase down. Blockstain went for Vader. They got them to pop up. And that is just one of those that Jonathan Fono thinks that Vader is just going to just automatically win that touch. Didn't see the forward rotation that tight, and everything just exploded. And I think that we also just froze, which is unfortunate.
I hear an audio bug. That is either exploded our server or exploded the game that was connected to the server. Either way, not good.
Okay, all right. So I think that was it 3-1 or 4-1 at that point? Was it 4-1? We just seen it score? Quattro. Okay, so hey, I learned Spanish in 2nd grade. All right, so 4-1 at this point.
2nd grade? What? No, okay. I don't care about the game. 2nd grade? What?
Wait, what? I was in Texas. Look, we had to learn.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
That's how you
that
ordered food. Okay, that's so when you see what's going down for this game, Vader obviously is trying to kind of consistently match velocity. They're trying to keep that ball away as much as they can. But what is the one phrase that you've at least said twice, maybe even thrice at this point? Where's the defense? It has gone missing too many times. And even if it's only a couple of the 4, that vacated back line is a product of 2 separate efforts. One, them isolating where Vader is and forcing a lot of direct physical challenges into him. 2, being faster than the rotation that is being put up by Waldorf and taking advantage of squeezing them into a 2-1 on separate sides of the bar and then just running it straight down. Even if it was just about catching them as they get too ambitious to follow where one player is trying to run out for a clear and then shooting that gap and just seeing what kind of chance ball rolls in.
It's also down to the trust you have in your team. With Vader feeling like they have to do everything, whether they do or do not have to do everything, it looks like they feel like they have to do everything. So it turns into one where they've set across. And by the way, we missed less than a minute of gameplay, and it's only because there have been 3 goals scored since we left. Nearly 4. Vader almost scored again. I want to see what the goal totals are for Waldorf when something isn't excitedly happening. Because somebody's taken over. Everybody's taken over. In a minute and 10 seconds, there have been 4 goals scored in this matchup. And Alright Plains, with Radio Lamb missing that, in this time, the defense was there. They just couldn't handle a light plane running through the middle.
And I do wonder if there's at least a hat trick for Allied Plains. I think that we've seen them now. Well, the Death Star's blown up at least 3 times. So yes, there's a minimum hat trick for Allied Plains.
Skywalker's on one this week.
Yeah, just trying to take them down. They're like, we're not going to have any more under construction. But unfortunately for Radio Lamb in that sequence, they rolled it right in front of the back third of their defending line. That is not what you want to do. So I was wondering if these teams were going to tighten up. Well, that didn't happen. If anything, it's become a little bit too loose. Possibly 10 goals shared between both squads. We got 20 seconds.
Another one that clears midfield. Jonathan Fono does something with it. Light Plains just with no boost elevates. This one's all but over. It can come down to how comfortable you are with your team and some bragging rights for goal differential at the end of this. Radio Lamb elevates. This should be good enough to put off the back wall, and away it is indeed. Vader gets contact, but nothing that's going to change the course of humanity in the final 0 seconds of this game. Blockstain maybe try to add insult to injury. unsuccessful Missouri Southern 2-1 and a 6-3 statement, albeit a questionable 6-3 statement, but a statement nonetheless to take game 3, sorry.
This is the second game of the 3 that Vader has put up at least 8 shots. I think that his least total so far was actually the one where his team won in game number 2, which was 3. The dude has, I think, 20 shots in 3 games. That's a lot of offensive output, even if it's just kind of slamming off the old post. And this one also had a lot of goals. So I don't know. It definitely feels like there is a lag time. It's a yo-yo, if you will. And the hand that it be is Vader trying to be able to toss that thing wherever they can, but being able to get both Radio Lamb as well as Jonathan Fono kind of in sequence is now creating this gap, and the string's all a mess.
It's also 8 shots for their other 2 players combined through these first 3 games, by the way. And the defense is there for Waldorf. It feels like converting that into offense has been the number one trigger and issue for them. Midfield control can be the number one problem there, where you have one problem that can cascades into another, and that third problem then gets us back to the issue of problem number 1. If this team individually does not really get into more of a rhythm on rotation, there's not going to be a way to turn around the series. And when they take on better opponents down the line, it's not going to happen for them next week. They take on the number 7 team as it stands. But if it happens down the line, you're looking at a team that will just not only get out mechanic, but out passed. Individual passes can be the difference maker when it comes to games where you are matched evenly in skill. And it feels like we are right now. It's been back and forth. It was in game number 2. In that third game, it was goal after goal in quick succession. Even in the succession that we lost because we were out of the server for a minute, I think we were out of the server for nearly 3 minutes, actually. Because there were just 3 goals scored in quick succession, we didn't miss a whole lot of that action.
I do wonder if we're seeing, are we seeing too much of Vader only because he's highlighting the scoreboard, or is that we're just kind of missing out on what is keyly happening between both Radio Lamb and Jonathan Fono? Because I feel like both of them were being kind of locked together, and I just need, if I'm gonna see anything of them just to calm themselves down, take advantage of what is now currently another server swap. So if you're wondering why we're talking a little bit longer, we are resetting the lobby again. But if I'm gonna go over to them and coach Vader, I'm gonna continue to let off the reins. I want him to widthwise to change up that rotation, to give overt space for responsibility for Jono Tono as well as Radio Lamb. Radio Lamb seems like they were just taken off of the leash, and they're like, hey, we need you to match spacing wise with where Vader's going. Don't do that. No, go mega fundamental. And I need the middleman to be Jonathan Fono to be that follow-up, because we can get Radio Lamb to simply exist between the pipes. That defense can be there. Waldorf has done this before. They were literally number 1 seed going into the fall. Something has changed, be it a student, the program, or maybe, just the tacos were different tonight. I don't know. But Missouri Southern, they're looking primed to force both these squads to go 3-3 after this series. We go game 4.
It could also be an instance of tunnel vision on my part, because we're seeing Vader do all the successful, active plays on the offensive side. We're also seeing them kind of miss the opportunities on the defensive side because we're already looking at them. And that can be the issue of tunnel vision overall for teams, much less for myself as a broadcaster. I'll kind of point out my own flaw on that one. And if you miss those opportunities, or in this case, if you nearly miss the rotation, Vader was the 3rd man in this rotation. That has not been the case very often.
Oh. Set up, though. This is exactly what they need. They've got Radio Lamb now with another one. He's a fantastic shot. That is what we got to see even more of. 3rd sequence. They get the next man up and finally pushing it through. Jono Tono Fono able to break the ice here for the Vikings.
It's 4 consecutive shots / passes in the vicinity of the goal that Missouri Southern just could not deal with. That's an amazing turnaround for Waldorf, where more and more got involved and became dangerous. Not only were there to be there, but were there to score. And Vader now on the defensive side has stepped up. Maybe the answer is Vader's the 3rd or 4th man in a rotation that includes 3 people, and allows the others to pull players out of comfortability and get him more activated. That's a really good creative offensive sequence that Waldorf needs more of for that goal.
Sometimes your best player, be it mechanically, functionally, wherever, ranked or otherwise, can be your last man to finish the job, to be able to enable much of the rotation and that pressure to just remain up the field and be viable. I like the idea. They're playing from the middle, and they've got the rest of the deck all completely stacked. Now, Jonotono, they know that they can't do all of that and more without some support. Vader comes out, flip reset. He's got in his back pocket. Double commit between the defenders. You got one last man. They're going to hang out. That's Blockstain. They've got nothing in the tank, but they have to wait for Waldorf to come to them before they eventually squeak their way out of their own back end.
That's a good clearance from Missouri Southern. No rush for it, patient to allow a player with boost to get it out, but now you have to get possession afterwards. This is where Blockstain could have done so, but lost to 50. Klude gets beat by Radial Lamb and had to panic to get there. Missed opportunity. Vader, a rare mistake on the offensive side now, and Waldorf has been bailed out of what would have been an issue by another missed touch on the defense from Missouri Southern.
That's when you go sprinting, trying to catch up to someone, but then you start overstepping and you look like basically a newborn giraffe. So Vader, a little bit too fast. 218, trying to just put this one to the near side wall. Jonathan Fono, just right behind Radial Lamb. You know Vader's waiting in the wing, and they do calm to just calm down. Let me get that ball. Still, MSSU on this rotation. Moso trying to press. They were hoping for 50-50, and this one ends up squirting out in favor of the Vikings as they make use of some time. Less than 2 minutes remaining. Still just one goal, though, ahead of the Lions. See if they can continue to press.
Vader loses that 50. This one drops into the corner, and Kluge just trying to keep it away from the defense. Gets that touch on, and they score, but only gets a negligible bit of contact to bring it around. A traded demo in the back line means only one's back right now for the Vikings. It doesn't cost them all that much. They nearly trigger Vader again for the demo. That one doesn't work. Now they go after Jodo Totofono. Feels like a game of Wreck-It Ralph rather than one of Rocket League as it stands. And Missouri Southern's having it work for him, nearly beating Jodo Totofono, who was by default the last man back after respawning.
Minute approaching. If Moso wants to remain in the lead in this series, we can see ourselves going all tied up. Heading to game number 5. Jonathan Fono giving the kiss of death to Klude and letting them sit by the sideline for at least the next few seconds. Playing things slowly, possibly getting bumped. It's a very honest and telegraphed touch. Moving to the middle of the net. You see MSSU bearing down upon Waldorf. That's a pass. They can't quite make it go north and south. And Vader, look how slow this guy has become. When he gets quick, it's to get this shot off. And now they just play it to the floor. They played it way too far inside on the defense of Moso, and Vader walks away with a freebie.
In the esports realm, you can very rarely say that a freshman feels like one of the more storied players in the team, but that's the case for Vader. He's played Rocket League for 6 years. He's the captain of this squad, and as a freshman, he also is one of the leaders in terms of seniority because, well, all 3 players are freshmen. This is a young Waldorf team. Going back to the fall, number 1 seed. In this spring, they're really only 2 games off of number 1. We'll say 3, operating under the assumption that the number 1 squad has lost this week. But by no means is this a team that has 2 or 3 players graduating this semester. Everybody's going to be sticking around for a hot minute, and even more so if they continue with this success. They're going to tie things up at 2 apiece, and really off the seniority of their captain, but the follow-up of everybody in the team system for this 4th game.
They truly took advantage of a little bit of a break, calmed down the field, and look what really calmed down was the shooting column. Both sides limited on their true opportunities onto that back line. And even though a couple of shots gathered by Radial Lamb, loved the rotation that we got that time out of Waldorf. Everything seemed a lot more team-oriented. It wasn't one player dragging 2 on like a much longer kind of feedback system, seeing what can be done after all the damage comes through, tornado in the trailer park style and what they have to clean up. This time around, it was the entire gang cycling together. That was a much better, more clinical showcase from out of Waldorf. And on the other end, it felt like something was kind of left behind. Obviously, 3 saves gathered by 1. I think a total of 4 shots in all by Moso, and they were not the omnipotent threat that we got to see each of those players really kind of take stock of. And it was because they weren't having to have an easy solution of, all right, Vader did a thing, everyone else is in chaos, let's profit. This time they actually had to face our true squad. So now, at minimum, we're left with 2 games. We got a game 6 no matter what out of this one, TTL. And it's not because of a weird 1-second snafu where someone flipped upside down.
Don't remind me of that series, please. Please do not. No, I've always viewed a best of 7 series, regardless of the sport or esport or real scenario, as a game of chess. It is a game of adjustments between each individual game. This applies in first-person shooters, it applies in MOBAs, it applies here in Rocket League as well. Small adjustments can lead to big change, game in and game out. And that's the case there. So what's the response from Missouri Southern? We had the conversation for Waldorf. Where's the defense? Especially back in game 3. That time, the first goal came off of the early pinch. The second one, where was the defense of that one? Literally where? It was Vader who came down to 1v1, even with limited boost, was able to just kind of quick flip into it and walk away with a pretty simple goal in the grand scheme of things. Arguably the easiest goal, or one of them, that we've seen in this series. That can't happen for a Missouri Southern team who is fighting for a playoff spot, who is fighting then for seeding shortly thereafter that, should they get the playoff spot. If they want to move in the playoffs, that can't happen. Rotations, even off of shorter kickoffs or longer, elongated offensive possessions, can't happen. What's the adjustment for them now that Vader is not the only variable?
Well, that's true, because now that they've actually got kind of a balanced effort in front of them, there isn't just one easy design to get through. But to that end, some of their inclinations might actually come up. Was that all of a single proof by Waldorf? Can they do it again? Can the same level of control be obtained by Waldorf? Can they stay calm in the storm? For Missouri Southern, they cannot let these sneak through. That is the second time in 2 games that Jono Tonofono has been able to profit fast.
Quickly going off the kickoff, and even with a second player there, ends up walking away with the 50-50 with possession and the demo. Basically a smokescreen, quite literally, to score a goal in 3 seconds. And Radio Lamb steals the mid boost. Kickoff for Waldorf after scoring a goal. Don't let Missouri Southern get boost or comfortable. Both cases work there.
Missouri Southern has let too many of those squeak on by in the last few games, having to take a very ambitious and very dangerous back touch to their own crossbar and banking off of a teammate being there. Oh, but the backdoor bandit and Jono Tonofono is going to punish this one.
Vader off the corner. Missed jump by 1. The second not expecting the mistake. And Jono Tonofono there to clean up the pieces. 30 seconds gone, 2-0, and Waldorf has not allowed Missouri Southern back into games that they have led. Neither team has really come back from any notable deficit in this series. And Vader, trying to extend that deficit, gets a touch over, leaves it for a teammate, but both players in rotation were looking for the same boost earlier, and thus they're further away. Jono Tonofono gets the jump, but goes into the ceiling of the net, and Missouri Southern starts the comeback. Don't call it a comeback yet. They're only 1 goal away.
This is exactly what Vader was on their attempt at. They couldn't get the double tap, trying to make an easy layup system for someone to come forward and finish off. Radio Lamb a step behind. The defender from Moso just there on the docket. Can Clued play this one?
What
Cheeky,
a play.
they do!
What a play. That is knowing your surroundings and your own situation. Clued, look at that, 0 boost the entire way. Knows they're not jumping into it, knows they're not winning a boost battle. They just sit there, patiently wait for their opponent to come to them, win the battle of center of gravity, and end up walking away with the 50-50 because of it. That is stellar from Clued.
Low 50 wins. In Rocket League, if you can play patient, that is what you get a chance to use. And suddenly, one is 2 one way, 3 the other, and everyone's getting a piece of this ball on the side of Moso.
All I'm saying, going back to one more Star Wars reference, is having the high ground in Rocket League, like you said, is not a good thing. If Obi-Wan said that to Anakin, Anakin would be laughing at him, assuming he was in an octane. But he wasn't, so that's how Star Wars played out like it did. In this case, Waldorf has had the high ground on many occasions. That 50-50, the lead to start this game, none of that is really comfortably played in their favor. And Missouri Southern, knowing their situation, knowing their own strengths, winning a couple rotational battles as well, knowing who they need to shut down, and notably, when they need to take on proactive fights. Here, they're patiently waiting for a ball to go into the midfield. Jonah Tonofono doesn't really come out on top of that 50-50. It just elevates into no man's land.
Why is it so funny thinking about Anakin giggling in a burn ward while crying about his dead wife? Like, what? There's a lot that has to be unpacked with that whole
You're thinking
metaphor.
about it too much. I was thinking purely Rocket League. That's
Oh, no!
What are we doing?
Well, they're helping me reset. Light Plains goes right underneath this one, but it's Vader with the last touch. This one, unfortunate for Blockstain. This is why when you face your own net, it is sometimes the most dangerous. If you're bringing it across your net with the ball, that's one thing. But that ball is off to play right along and skim that goal line. That is exactly what happens if you're facing directly into it.
But my own goal is the only one I can consistently hit when it's an empty net. What's up with that? I just want to point that out.
It's
Can't hit
magnets.
empty nets on the offensive side. That's got to be the case. This one's going to just barely miss the net, so it doesn't have to be played. And luckily, it was not on net because it was not played. Radio Lamb, keep it in the middle third of the field. Can't do so, but it's not really going to matter. Jodo Tonofono into the middle. Radio Lamb misses high. Would have been blocked if it was on goal, but this is another situation of Missouri Southern having an interesting turnaround where Waldorf has consistently put on pressure, but finally Missouri Southern puts something back.
The entire rotation out of Moso at this 3-3 mark, defensively, what has been the same recurring instance? This ball has been freely flying over the third man's head. It's not like it doesn't happen at the pro tier. However, it has been happening too much that they have to answer all the time. The better gap that they've also been finding offensively is being able to outpace where the last man is for Waldorf. You see Radio Lamb trying to get there. Even if they'd snagged that corner boost, they were already at supersonic, making use of tracking forward. That ball just had a great clearance lane.
Put it over for Missouri Southern and just clear it at this point. Final 2 minutes, but if Game 3 and Game 4 tell us anything, no lead is safe regardless of the amount of time left on the clock. Blockstain runs right by that one. Jonathan Fono putting it forward into the danger zone, gets a demo as well. This becomes dangerous now on both sides because you got one man back. Jonathan Fono is demo hunting. I've heard of ball chasing. This is player chasing.
Same way when they put out those Merc contracts in the NFL. Hey, go hit this guy. Make life difficult for him. And Moso's trying to do exactly like that. Blockstain, that's an ambitious back pass. No way. You cannot do that. Jono Tonofono is there again to take away. Blockstain, it's on the pickup. I understand that they were just trying to pop it forward, but Jono has consistently been there to dunk down on them when they do that.
This is a game that Missouri Southern had in their hands time and time over in this game. A light nearly wins that 50 with no boost again. Can't walk away with it, but Blockstain comes out of left field. That, kids, is how you make up for mistakes, no matter how marginal they may be. Basically jumps off the wall, pre-jumps through all three players, and that is also how you 1v3, if you will. Missouri Southern takes the lead because of it.
That's also external side rotations. That's the same thing that we got to see from Moso, and now we've seen it from Waldorf. This one's on target. Great send away by Jonathan Fono. Can they hold a lead? We've got 1 minute left. None of this has been tightened up. We've had 9 goals now for a couple of games. Blockstain trying to find yet another one. A 10th may be required. They're putting a loose ball. Anyone diving through? No. The Lions will stay back. They will prowl from the outside. Waldorf is playing inside a very tight-knit box, but it's a foot race. Vader putting on a shot, and it becomes all tied. Waldorf chasing the heels of Moso.
This is how you slide it in the far corner if you're Vader. He gets the marginal touch, and again, it goes behind the last defender. Klude maybe could have gotten to that, but he's not thinking, oh, this is going to be a slow tap behind where I'm trailing to. He's trying to win the race to the front post, and Vader knows that. Take advantage of where your opponent thinks it's going and go somewhere else.
Waldorf finally take control.
Wait a second.
Moso has had chances to. And all of a swing and a miss. It was a decoy. They had a second opportunity. Radio Lamb is staying very far back. They better be gathering some boost, but now they're going for the kill shot. Jonathan Lafona puts it right into the middle of the pitch. Vader's going to be on the back corner. It's a 1 versus 2. Clued, no, it's a full man sweep. Trying to just find anything, but they have no boost. Radio Lamb,
Nobody's back.
They're going to keep this one up pitch. Jonathan Lafona here combining. They can get a kill. 3 seconds left. This will come down to 0-second time before overtime. Back pass. Clued will slam it to the ground. Can Waldorf take this lead away and get themselves match point?
Not with that kickoff. A light didn't actually track after it. They still had 25 boost or so when they had that touch. Vader now putting it straight on goal. Blockstain got the full boost pad in the corner and followed after it. Double commit from Missouri Southern, but going on to the offensive side, it may not cost him. Stellar pass. No follow-up is there, though. Vader now trying to win yet another race to the back post. Doesn't have to do it, but clued again. Thinks one thing's going to happen. A completely different occurrence happens right in front, and they can't do a darn thing about it. Radial Lamb's the one who puts the kill shot through, and Waldorf is on match point.
They were nipping at the heels of Moso that entire game. Moso had every opportunity to just keep Waldorf an arm's reach away. But Waldorf did not give up. And if you were to tell me as a betting man, Vegas odds, that Radio Lamb was going to get the OT winner, I would have lost some cash. But still, hat trick for Jonathan Ofono. Vader with a couple as well. And they're good for at least 4 of the 6 from a couple of these teams. The key thing that's also been happening, just a little bit in the background, even though it's a team from Iowa and a team from Missouri, guessing that, Moso's in Missouri, they are. But both are flipping Central and East servers. Just enough of a difference. I don't know how big the ping differential is.
It's a
They're
lot.
making sure that that stays comfy for whomever's going to have it. So we gone back and forth a couple of times. I don't really know who that benefits the most is, because geographically, Missouri's closer to Central. They've got to be, right? And Iowa's more onto the eastern side of stuff.
They are right on top of each other.
Then I don't even know why we're doing it.
So the only reason it would remotely benefit Iowa is because they are closer laterally to Chicago, and you are aware of IT things, right?
Yes,
You
yeah.
and I
So
bet
that
this
data
conversation.
center there.
So you go to that data center, and that data center then quickly gets you elsewhere. If you're familiar with how airlines work, a lot of times you go spoke to hub to other hub to other spoke. In this case, the first of those 2 hubs is Chicago. So that would be the only difference maker. I don't think it's going to be all that much of a difference. It's about a 15 ping difference between the 2 teams right now. But from what I saw, it looked like Waldorf had a worse ping than Missouri Southern, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but sure, I guess.
It does. According to our producer, they're saying that it benefited Moso the most with the most recent swap. So
Is that because they have the Mo in their name? Mo, so
they got the Mo. But either way. Everyone that has shown up tonight, regardless of what their records have been blitzing us with some of the best Rocket League that we've seen over the course of several weeks, showcasing that collegiate spirit of trying to get to the playoffs is very much there, trying to force the issue. This ball has touched every bar except the one in the back of the net, and somehow we are still scoreless through 40 seconds.
It's like trying to put the 8 ball in when you've got a 3 or 4 ball lead in pool. Somehow it hits every bumper except the pocket you're trying to put it into. And Waldorf had everything in front of them, misses another post. That one finally goes through. But a couple missed opportunities for Waldorf. This could be 4-0 if kickoffs didn't exist, but they do, so it would only be 1-0 anyway. Fortunately, it is 1-0.
Vader expecting a little bit more bounce in that ball, but Radio Lamb generally sets himself to the ground, center mass, and that one right inside the near side pipeline. So the Vikings already up 1-0 as Missouri Southern looking for something to hit. So far, not good. If you think about it from an exhaustion standpoint, had that lead, got tied. Had that lead, got tied. Couldn't keep away from Waldorf, and I gotta wonder what their game plan has been. This feels like we're lagging. We are lagging. Okay, I was like, there's not a chance that this rotation is real.
So let's go back to the server conversation. In this case, it's benefiting nobody. Or, depending on how you look at it, it's benefiting Missouri Southern more because we have to get back to 1-0 in some way, shape, or form. I've looked slightly more into this. The
Okay.
Missouri Southern is in the southern part of Missouri, surprising nobody ever if they read the full name. However, Waldorf University should more likely be called University of Northern Iowa and replace UNI in the Missouri Valley Conference because they are not far from the Minnesota border. They are a state
Oh.
route away from the Minnesota border.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are.
Yeah.
They're up there.
Okay. Yeah, I see. This is one thing I need because I look up mascots and I look up general states, but I gotta look up like where these guys are because I used to do that for high schools. Like, oh yeah, they're like a mile down from each other. These two schools hate each other's guts. This is like the most like, or you're nearly basically a hockey school kind of thing. So, which when you play Rocket League, you might as well be because it shares a lot of similarities.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Waldorf cares a lot more about hockey than they do Rocket League.
They
anyway.
probably do. So yeah, either way. But they also care about Rocket League. But also, we're gonna go back to the server. We should be good to go. To reset the goal. Is that not being redone?
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how those rules work. If I remember correctly, if a goal is scored, the server can't be reset for personnel, like an individual issue. But if it's reset for a server, unless it's like a 3 or 4 goal lead, I think it just gets reset to 0. This could be a case of they are just playing a game of waiting until the final second, and that seems to be the case right now, but I don't know. Maybe they're waiting to reset to when the time was to score that goal. I can't tell if this is actual gameplay. It looks like it is. Vader's going to score anyway. Maybe he's not.
Wow.
What a save.
Okay. I think for all intents and purposes, that it's a full reset. So that one ended up being blink of an eye. It was a single goal. That may end up being the difference, but we're going to give it to what it is right now in front of us, which is 0-0. It was right at this point in time that we had gotten our first goal. And then 10 seconds later, everyone started playing a weird thing of you can't touch me. So Missouri Southern hoping to take advantage of the moment that they've been given a second chance. A nice 50-50. No! That one just pinballs its way underneath the crossbar.
Light Plains trailing the far side of this, waiting for a pass from Klude. Klude couldn't get the touch they were looking for. And there has not been a conversation amongst the teams, it seems. So this is being played as if it is a full reset. We have gotten past the point in the game where we were stuck at a, reset between the squads. This is a Waldorf win that is basically, or a Waldorf goal that is wiped off. So yeah, the server has favored Missouri Southern, to understate the obvious.
Logistics can sometimes be your greatest friend. Oh, what a drop down shot. Big save from out of Vader. That near side post just consistently being berated and bruised and bullied whenever Moso comes to town. This is a free chance. They let it just slide. Radial Lamb has actually been an ace as of look at this rotation forward. Blockstain sent it to the corner thinking they had time, and Radial Lamb reminded them that they really do not.
Under 3 minutes, we're basically about where we were around this time anyway. So maybe that advantage is wiped off, but this has got to be sitting in the back corner of the mind of Waldorf. They're on match point. They're thinking, we should have a 2-goal lead right now. Maybe that frustration could get the better of them, but we've seen them play through adversity already in this series, and they may score another goal off the back of it. They will. Radial Lamb gets the touch they were looking for in the midfield, and it is 2-0, regardless of what it should be.
It's an unfortunate rotation into their near side post. You roll that corner, and if you're chasing in shadow into your own defensive box, you're going to be making some weird calls, especially to your back man, who's hoping to be the first one to touch it. And so for Moso, this has gone sour and sideways. What was a previous game that felt like that they could have been able to control it, got out of sorts, hit an OT, and hit 11 goals. This time around, we're a much more muted affair with more than halfway of this game. And like you had mentioned previously, often the team that had been scoring first had been able to build up and no one had caught them. Waldorf broke that pattern in our game number 5, but Moso has yet to prove to us that they can catch up, especially now down 2.
We saw Waldorf even in game 4 where things got a little out of hand in terms of scoring. Still make it a reasonable for a second game before losing 6-3. if you're looking at this for Missouri Southern, you need to just string goals together. I'm not saying completely send it and forget about defense, but there have been very few times where they've been caught out because they've been trying to overcommit to offense. It happened twice total in this series, maybe 3 times back of the hand math. And you can't afford to give up another goal, but if you don't score, the amount of goals you give up aren't going to matter anymore.
It's a one-touch possession per time. Vader, oh, that's a great 50-50. It's a foot race, and that should be confirmed. They just have to let it walk the rest of the way in. An overcommit. You had Vader step up to this gap. He had 2 teammates, and he had no doubt that he would be able to get to that ball first, but it was Moso that was hitting X the entire time, and then eventually scrimmed it past. That's an overcommit. That's a loss of discipline, but that's also one that Moso will take. They cut this lead in half. We have 70 seconds now. It's up to Waldorf to stay disciplined, but suddenly it's a 3-man rush.
I was going to say it's a complete opposite side for Waldorf, where they don't need goals. They just need to actively hold the defensive side. There was no reason for them to overcommit to a ball in the offensive third. They don't need insurance goals. It's more than likely not going to come down to insurance goals when we get to tiebreakers, should they even be in a tiebreaker. This game would put them 4-2, not only in the series, but on the season. They'd be a near guarantee to stand alone in 3rd place and have all the tiebreakers they need. At this point, you can't afford that, and we're 40 seconds away, and they've got another player too far out of position. Fortunately, both the other players were in the correct rotation of the defensive side.
Trying to correct what has been thrown at him from Moso with an aggressive basis. Can they continue to move down this pitch unaired, undeterred, and the Vikings possibly taking the game regardless? Blockstain's going to launch from the wall. He can't catch up to the ball. Recognizing that, they have to send the 3rd man. Don't leave it on the table. Everything else must come off. You've got to send it to the backboard. No touch by Jonah Tonofono. They bounce it in! Clued again! We're tied late. Can Game 6 give us overtime once more?
Radio Lamb, a late jump at that. It ends up going off the back of his car and falling into the danger zone. Blink and you miss it. Missouri Southern has done something that Waldorf has tried to avoid the entire game. Giving up a goal at point-blank range after having players that could have done something about it. And now Blockstain's got control, but Radio Lamb has boost. They're good enough on the defensive side to hold that off.
There's a difference between playing to win and playing not to lose. Moso has to go out there and leave no doubts. Waldorf trying to protect a season where they would be in a very advantageous spot going into week 7. A nice undercut pass. The putback. Vader calling the number of Jono Tonofono. Radio Lamb has been absolutely awakened since those previous couple of games. Clued has to navigate some negative space between opponent and teammate alike. Finally, a clear comes out. The Lions can breathe.
Radio Lamb alone in the goal, though. This becomes dangerous for them. Awkward touch. Trails it away from goal. Nearly helped. Nothing consequential, and Blockstein out of position that time around. Gets a bump on Radio Lamb, but Jota Tonofono in a good spot to deal with that. Here's a light Plains trying to trail through the midfield and follow up on that touch. They let the 3rd man do so in Blockstein. Waldorf, a minute into this overtime period. They've had 2 concerning offensive possessions. Everything after that has been Missouri Southern, and it has been a couple times where this could very well have gone to Game 7. Waldorf is not broken just yet.
Same time that we've seen those rotations back and all the Moso players looking at their own net. Everything has gone sideways. The 2nd man is not there. Jono Tonofono retreats. Right in the middle of the pitch as he saw Radio Lamb trying to make that touch from all the way in his back third. We're nearly 100 seconds into overtime. 50-50 comes out the front face of Vader. He wants to be there in time. Make the heroic effort. Now you got him doing the same thing from the back line. He wins one touch. Might be able to send this one all the way to the other side. Moso's under threat.
Blockstein fortunately got back in time for that, even with the double commit. Needs a second touch, maybe a demo. They exchange demos. This is a losing scenario for Missouri Southern with the ball going towards them. Blockstein spawns with 33 boost. At a bare minimum, they had enough to win or force a 50. They haven't kept the ball afterwards all the way to near the goal line of Waldorf. However, Waldorf rotates well. They don't have the boost to rotate out. That's the issue they run into. Vader just now gets some, but he still doesn't have control. They lose because of it. Blockstein is forced Game 7, 2.5 minutes into OT, exclusively because of the chaos in the corner.
Saw him rotating in. Suddenly, we've got a Game 7 unlocked. Waldorf and Moso exchange overtimes between games 5 and 6. And we get to figure out who's going to be even 500 or if we'll finally have a much more decided playoff picture between both these teams. Everything is boiling down to a single game. Rocket League feels like the series get out of sorts. You see these big sweeps, but sometimes it just comes down to the moment. Who's able to hold their nerve? Who's able to maintain that fundamental rotation? As soon as you saw Vader back up, he's like, I need to interject. I need to pause this. I cannot let this one go, especially because my teammates have a little bit wider gap from that backside post. And that created just enough of as he rotated into that near side post for everything to just pinball around. But you know what? At this point, it's who's able to just lock in for one single game.
I do want to say this, slightly unrelated to this game, but overall important for the season. The other two games that started at the same time as this, Hendrix College and Niner Esports Club Academy, those two teams are still playing, and so are AVL JV and Drew University. Now, we don't have live game scores on there. They're not being streamed, unfortunately. We don't know what they are. But the fact that they started at or around the same time we did, and we've even had some server problems, and we're going to Game 7, I'd imagine they're still in the general vicinity of that. That or somebody forgot to upload scores and they were supposed to do so like 20 minutes ago. Either way, this could very well lead to a very exciting Week 6 of play, and arguably more important, Game 7 of this series, with Hendrix, like we said, in 5th place, alongside AVL in 4th. It's 3 versus 6 right now, but all 4 of those teams are separated by just one game, pending some other matches.
That we could have what? Could we have 4 3-3 teams? Could that happen after?
Yes.
Oh, that's
guaranteed. And there's actually a very reasonable possibility to where, assuming we get an unlikely win or two, there could be 4 4-3 teams or 4 3-4 teams.
wow.
Yeah.
That's why you play the game. I love competition. I love the math that goes behind it. I'm a big nerd, and honestly,
I
this
love
is
tiebreakers. They're so much fun.
Look, us staring at stats is exactly why they put us behind this booth. Also, because we're just a menace to society. We should not be out there. They put us inside of these rectangles. So 1080p is where we live. For right now, we go down to what we know from the entirety of this series. For Waldorf, they've been able to rein it in, and they've honestly been able to dial up Radial Lamb. I have loved what we've gotten out of Radial Lamb in recency. Jonathan Fono felt like they were always ready to kind of support whomever was front running. And even if a lot of what Lamb is getting is kind of a deluge from after Vader kind of opening up lanes, that was missing before. We didn't have follow-ups that Waldorf was winning with. On the other end of things, we have a team that finally feels like they're much that offense that they began in game number 1 with Moso is present and accounted for. And they finally gut checked. They were down 2 and they were able to force it into an overtime. No matter what, just not giving up on the play. Because this is a season, gang. Like, we could see stuff happen next week. Obviously, depending on what Niner and Drury are doing right now against their other opponents. But 2 and 4 is not where you want to be. 3 and 3 is already a tough marker. And this is a fantastic position to really be like, you know what? We're a squad that made the playoffs in the fall. Like, why should we leave anything to rest from not being in our gameplay shown tonight? And all of you have been fantastic, by the way, protecting your programs through, fighting each other in the chat, which you've done very cleanly. So shout out to all of you. But I don't even know, like, do you go for Waldorf or do you go for Moso? Where's your big bet on the table?
I go for a good defensive game. We've had a couple games where I've looked at these teams and said they're doing great on the offensive side, but there have been too many games. 3v3s are supposed to be like 2-0 games or 2-1 games where you walk away and you're like, wow, we had a lot of shots. Somehow nothing could go in, but we still won. If you're winning like 6-3, like we saw earlier, or in that game, close overtime game. Defense was not the story of that one until we got to overtime. If defense is going to win you games here, defense is going to win you championships down the line. That's where I'm concerned for either of these squads. Even if this is a win for Missouri Southern, and both of these teams do go to 3-3, you're kind of looking at A, mutually assured destruction in terms of playoff seeding, but B, when things come down to it, a more dangerous and volatile playoff. Volatile could mean good in some cases, depending on when you're playing like a number 1 seed and they haven't seen what you look like during a regular season, or a team that looks like how you have. But volatile could also mean you lose 14-0 in 4 straight games, and your playoffs are going to be a very short-lived occasion. And when you're not playing some active defense, like some teams are here, that's what needs to change going to Game 7, especially if you want to look positive going into Week 7 and thus the playoffs afterwards.
It's going to come down to just finally who is able to hold that defensive line, but also so much defense is proactively protected by an aggressive offense. And I felt like Waldorf had overextended some of that.
Yep.
And if it comes down to decision making and some of that needs to be played, it does feel there's the slightest bit more balance and hold of resiliency for Moso. It's not like it can't be done. And I'm not a biased caster. No one's put cash in my pocket. I work for this company, but I'm just going to see some of the best. Well, yeah, but that's also because I love to be able to be in the best seat in the house, be the biggest fan of this kind of esport. For Moso, I know that they have shriveled when it's come to the rotations. They end up facing into their own net way too often. For Waldorf, they just kind of leave the window open and flies are getting in the form of Moso Lions. So who cleans that up the best? Or do we see another 11-point game? I'm down for either. I lived through the Big 12 of the early 2010s. Like, whatever, who cares? Like 70-point games. I saw West Virginia and OU play in person. That had 108 points. Whatever. So yeah, that was real. I still have the tickets from that. Absolute bananasness. So if it's going to come down to that, I hope that everyone just kind of lets loose the rein, because this could be basically the season into completion, depending on how next week goes. But if you are Vader, do you feel this pressure that you've got to execute? Can Vader rein it in to execute the same way that they were when they're like, Jono, get up there, like Radial, do the same thing?
It's also down to, I'm going to say maybe, but whether Vader still feels comfortable in that not first man in the rotation role. These last couple games have been stellar. Not only for Vader, I mean, we said his name a lot, mostly because he's been at the forefront, but as soon as he stopped being at the forefront, we kind of stopped saying his name. And arguably, it's a good thing. If I'm not identifying you on every single game, you're either A, not scoring goals, or B, you're doing enough in the team environment for me to bring everybody up. And I feel like that's been the case for Waldorf these last couple of games. That last one, and honestly, the last 2 especially. Overtime goals are great because on nearly every occasion, the defense has done everything they could on the other side. That's kind of what I said earlier, where the defense is always the story when it gets to OT, but if it's gotten to OT, your own defense didn't do enough. In that case, both teams played stellar defense in that 2.5 minutes of OT. It was relentless pressure on both sides for extended periods of time. And Waldorf put it through, not only because Vader made a decent play, but because everybody forced the onslaught through for long enough for the defense to just not have anything left in the tank, both personnel-wise and boost-wise, literally. If that continues and they get enough of that rotation on a consistent basis, they're good. They're fine. They won't have an issue in the 7th game. But if they try and force it into one man's hands and say, hey, here's the Rock, go score 83 on the Houston Rockets, he's going to get fouled, or in this case, demoed, and he's not going to be able to shoot 43 free throws. I've gone back to my Bam Adebayo reference, by the way.
Oh my gosh. We'll see how that ends up going. And in fact, we apologize. I know this Game 7 is just right around the corner. It is so close. We are going to take a momentary break to make sure that this server is pristine, clean, and ready for these players to get mean. On the other end of it, it will be the last game, no matter what, of tonight's broadcast. We'll be back with more NECC Rocket League right after this.
You have habits just like me. Talk too much with strangers. Get way too serious around family.
only stumbled over diamonds, and I no longer fear the worst. I used to view you as a mountain that I couldn't climb but first. But I've only stumbled over diamonds, and I no longer fear the worst. You were the calm to my storm. You could take the wind, and though the winter stood calm, weighing on our shoulders, these the ice could never break us in. You were my horizon that I didn't see at first. You were my horizon, and the breeze is just what I deserve. You were my horizon that I didn't see at first. You were my horizon, and the breeze is just what I deserve. I used to view you as a mountain that I couldn't
Game 6 was so nice, we just had to do it twice.
We got a replay that we're going to be doing. You guys remember at the very start of game number 6 when there was a 1-0 for Waldorf? Well, we need to re-add that, and we're replaying from that point in time. That overtime win by MSSU to get us to a game number 1. Erase that from your memory, MIB style. We are at 1-0 from the original point in time, the previous server that ended up being reset.
Oh.
And now it's a 2-0. Waldorf, Vader. Oh my goodness.
Okay, now I want to really say, oh yeah, and we're justly back to where we should be. But at almost this exact same point, when we didn't do the server reset, it was 2-0 at like 3 minutes anyway. So they're arguably in a
Yes.
worse position now than they were during the normal game that we played without the full reset. That's as far as I'll go on it. But you get the idea. It's also unfortunate for Waldorf where they're saying, hey, we should have gotten this, and justly they should, and that's why they did. So Waldorf now up 2-0. Make it 3-0? Make it 3-0. Vader took the turnover personally, and Missouri Southern 3-0 comeback now required.
Crazy combination Kamehameha style of Jono over top and Vader underneath. Both hands formed together to form a blitz of a shot. Exhaustion is hitting not just them, but as well as over the entire pitch, as Moso thought they had done everything necessary to get into a game number 7. But sometimes you just got to keep track of the logistics. Regardless, what stands before them is the task of getting 3 goals. They need to now do that in order to catch up to the Vikings and to force this series to go the distance. Radio Lamp in chase from coast to coast, from sidewall and onwards, and they're finding gaps now. Waldorf not to be denied.
Radio Lamb puts that through, becomes awkward. Nobody was back. If that was on goal, it would have been dangerous. Fortunately, it wasn't, so it wasn't. Klude gets demoed on the back line. Vader's not a second man in this rotation, and a bump out of the way opens him up, but he decides to back away. Radio Lamb leaves it for Jonathan Fono, but nothing doing there. Missouri Southern, midway through this game, anything that has been done in the first half of the game can always be undone in the second. This is the point, however, where they need to start undoing the lead they face.
I always try to tell my teammates with a little dose of copium, if they can do it, we can do it, as long as there's the same amount of time. And it just needs to happen a little bit quicker if you are MSSU. So Missouri Southern, they find a gap, might be able to turn this one in, and they do so. Clued finally getting the first one here for the Lions so desperately as they need.
The issue with coming back from a multi-goal deficit is it is a cascade in difficulty. That's always how it is. The first goal in a 3-goal deficit is always the easiest. The one after that, the defense of your opponent is always a little bit more focused, and apparently there's another issue we run into. We've had server issues. We've had issues where an admin's required, and we couldn't see that chat, but it didn't look good hiding behind a boost number.
So from what I could tell, that previous goal went in, and if you look to the far right corner, if you went to the VOD or otherwise, Jonah Tonofono was dead in the water on top of the back corner boost when the ball was going through. So I think that they either wrote the entire word or at least said disconnect. And so a pause comes up. Thank goodness after 10 years, private matches actually have the ability to not only rewrite scores, but pause. I called for that for 7 years, and they said, but this time around, it's actually paying off, so fantastic.
Okay.
They're now getting rid of other stuff.
The fact that we could do that, I just want to make this an aside. Waldorf, we've seen they are able to chat, well, in the middle of the game. How did they not bring up the fact?
It's fine. It's fine.
Not
It's fine.
Not fine.
It's not fine, but it's fine.
I feel so
I
lied
understand.
to. I feel so
I know.
lied to with Missouri Southern winning that game 6. I was like so hyped for a game 7. I'm still as
too.
hyped for this game 6. But
Me too. It's just, it's unfortunate. We've had a lot of things tonight. Logistically, a lot of things have occurred. In fact, honestly, kind of every single thing that possibly could occur has occurred. To include disconnects, to include server resets, to include forfeitures, to include just a bunch of stuff. So,
a guy flipping upside down so we could go to overtime, kind of intentionally.
that was a whole thing, just for some brewskis, whatever.
I've got amazing news for everybody, by the way. If you're on the Twitch side, this will be a VOD available on YouTube until the end of time. So good
Shout
news
out.
for you. We upload all these to YouTube, and I will go back and watch a couple of these games saying, oh, so that actually did happen, and I was not in a fever dream, especially in our first series. However, Waldorf's looking back at this and saying, hopefully we don't have to look back at this on the negative side. Still the 3-1 lead. That pause has allowed them to hold on to it through what could have been a 2-on-3 if we didn't have that pause capability. However, Missouri Southern, not out of this one just yet. Shade over 90 seconds. They're still very much in this.
They will maintain that one goal. Trying to find this one from underneath. It's a bouncer. Jonathan Ofono. They've been sweeping the line and threatening a lot of this. Honestly, Jonah has been really alive, keeping the Lions pinned back, not just under the singular threat that is Vader, but under the dual threat that has been both them, Jono, and then even more with Radio Lamb really awakening into this matchup. You got Clued bearing down upon them. A minute to try and not just win it, but at least get to an overtime. They need to get this one up to 7 goals, and that would be a 4th one beyond regulation. The Lions in a doomsday situation now after what was a fever dream, be it at the hands of TTL or otherwise.
Vader just looking to get the ball in the air. He doesn't have all that much boost to follow after this. Actually doesn't get a single touch on it, but enough of a distraction to allow Radio Lamb to do so. Anytime the ball is spent on this side of the pitch is dangerous time. If you're Missouri Southern, that one becomes dangerous in the midfield. This stays up in the air long enough, but not uncontested long enough. That's the important part. Clued goes all the way back, and again, you can't afford to trail all the way back. It is send everything if you're Missouri Southern. That's what all Elite Plains tries, but he's unsuccessful, and that may very well do it. 10 seconds left. A goal's needed now, more than ever for Missouri Southern, and that clearance could very well do it.
This one puts it on ice. You thought, but you didn't. Game 7 was never to be. All of a mirage. Vader with the exclamation point to put it away. The Waldorf Vikings take what was and make it what is not, as they will take this series 4-2.
Waldorf University wins Game 6, 4-1 this time around, and take advantage of the end of that real comfortability on the defensive side. the quick turnaround in the defense when they needed to in that 2-goal lead. Really, the last minute and 30 seconds, the ball did not spend nearly any time on the blue side of the pitch. It was clearance after clearance, and that was the kind of conversation we had earlier where you can't afford to just play with the ball on the defensive side when you have a lead, regardless of the size of the lead. And I think they realized that after that first goal was scored. It's clear the ball, get it out, don't worry about it. Even if you're playing kick and chase, you can afford to do that because that means everybody's in a correct rotation.
They cleaned a lot of things up and honestly took an advantage kind of the moment. Oh, shout out to Cat Cam. Hey, Cat.
We
guys got to see
got
a
to
lot
say
of
hi
chat
during
earlier.
our small break in between. But
Yeah,
she's
what we do.
kind of roaming around.
Well, and to all intents and purposes, that does put Waldorf now into a 4-2 spot, and for Moso, they are now into a 2-4 spot. Mathematically, there's still some things that could swing. I'm actually going to see if there's any of these outcomes that hit
I'm
tonight.
checking
No,
too.
no one has reported their scores, so we don't know anything more than we did before in terms of the Central B division for Division 7. So you'll get to see all that going into next week, which will be the last week of the entirety of the season. For this one, though, we still have a couple of days left. I think we still got some League of Legends and some Overwatch that's going to be happening as well. So make sure if you want to see some general esports, even with this guy over there, I know you're
I'll be
more of a
behind the
producer
scenes.
these
You won't
days.
see me.
Yeah. So, you get to see some Counter-Strike, you get to see some Siege. There's still tomorrow as well as Friday that we'll be kicking off, and then a final week for the regular season. Right after that, so right after next week, we go into spring playoffs. That'll last for 3 weeks. And then we go into spring nationals, just for the entirety of the academic year, which will also conclude into a big May Madness situation. I think is that in San Antonio? I think. Right? Yeah, that's gonna be cool. So if you're looking for a lot of esports, this is definitely a good place to be able to send it. Also, give some love over to Chippy, our producer, for putting all of our faces in your spaces, as well as dealing with all this tonight, as well as Time to Light for being a absolute godsend fill-in. Time to Light, I'm so sorry to your fiance, but thank you for being with us, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go go apologize, but it was a very, very worthwhile time. Got to see some good Rocket League, exciting action both in our first 2 series. And honestly, I mean, looking at both of these, we had literally everything you could ask for in consecutive best of 7s. This is a very worthwhile a 2 hour and 45-minute couple of best of 7s literally leads you to see literally everything.
Everything possible. But you guys can also join us going into tomorrow. Make sure to come in, see us the same bad time, same bad channels. You can see it on NECC_esports, as well as the same thing onto YouTube. All the VODs will be saved there. You can see every single thing that pretty much we have in esports, be it Super Smash Brothers, Valorant, you name it, it's been played. We've got it. For tonight, you guys still have a great evening. I'm Hell Monkey Man. That's Time to Light. You've been fantastic, and we'll see you next time.